Is that a little bit better? You guys can hear me now? I was just apologizing because I'm so perfectly on time. So there's no... You guys don't get anything out of this. You guys don't get anything. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is, but... This time, what can I say? There's nothing to ding me for. I just did what I'm supposed to do. I showed up perfectly on time. In general, as we approach the higher end of the late penalties, you're going to notice that I'm going to be pretty much never late ever again. So just consider that when you guys are considering whether or not you want to spend some late penalties. Just consider that. All right. So, with that being said, the reason we're doing this stream today, also let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. The reason that we're doing this stream today is because the Gods Knights have just basically been officially established as the main villains of Elbaf. With them being officially established as the main villains of Elbaf... Oh, shit. Put this up. Might need another piece of paper. With them being established as the official new main villains of Elbaf, I just wanted to see how they might stack up compared to other villain groups. How do people feel about them? How do people feel? In general, I think it's way too early, obviously, for us to get a good read on how they're going to turn out. But we can compare a little bit to past villains. We can compare to past villains. The barber was not cooking. This is not a new hairstyle. This is not a new hair. I didn't get a haircut or anything like that. This is just my hair flopped down. I can switch it, however. It can look like this. You guys prefer this? Let's do this. You guys want that? My hair is naturally foldable. That's one of the benefits. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Good job being on time. Thank you. I appreciate it. I think my hair looks good like this. I think I look pretty good right now. Ancrest, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 18 months, man. Thank you so much. 1 second right here. All right. Yeah. All right. Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 18 months. Thank you for the support. How is Saka Days going? I haven't read that much more of it. I'm still at the place that I left off. I haven't read that much more of it. Should read more. I was having fun reading it. I don't think the plot had really gotten going just yet, but I was having fun. Please read Kagurabachi next. I will glaze it until the day I die. It is so damn good. Also, congrats on all the correct theories and start Elden Ring. I am probably going to start Elden Ring very soon. And not like those other times I said I would start Elden Ring soon. Right now, I think I've got a pretty good schedule in general, life-wise. And so when I've got a good schedule life-wise, then I feel okay with playing a video game. Because otherwise, I'm just like, if I play a video game right now, I'm just going to sink too much time into it. But I think I'm in a good spot right now. So I think I can do Elden Ring. Kagurabachi, the turnaround is hilarious. Because if anybody remembers how much people made fun of Kagurabachi back when it was first coming out, that was the fact that right now people are actually riding hard for it is just really funny. It could be like, do people think it could be like the next flagship Shonen Jump title? I think Shonen Jump doesn't need to worry about that shit until One Piece ends, and I think it's generally got like several more years till One Piece ends. The Shonen Jump currently has like a similar problem to the NBA, if you think about it, where it's like, fuck, what are we going to do when One Piece ends? What are we going to do when LeBron retires? It's like the same thing. It's like the same general concept. Continuing on. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Gobble D Snuts, thanks for the 10. Morj, put some respect on my name for predicting the sizes of the 2 new Gods Knights. Wait, did I not? No, you said that they'd be really big, but like, I know what you're talking about in the predictions, but they're not that big. They're like just standard One Piece big. You know, like big in One Piece now needs to mean like at least there's just levels to it, right? Like if it was Kuma size or up, I'd give you something. If it was Kuma size or up, I'd give you something. I assume that's what you're talking about, right? That you made a correct prediction in the sense that you said that the God's Knights are going to be big. If it was Kuma size or up, I think I'd give it to you. But, like, nowadays, every One Piece... Otherwise, it's just a very safe bet, right? Like, every fucking One Piece character is abnormally large at this point. So it needs to be abnormally large, even by One Piece character standards. And that's not the case, I don't think. Also, how much does Shanks know about the true history? Was his return to the Holy Land a reconnaissance mission? I think it might have been more so, like, him trying to understand. I don't know if it was, like, a genuine reconnaissance mission, but just him trying to learn his roots. I don't think that he was genuinely trying to become a Celestial Dragon, but I don't know if he was trying to learn anything in particular either. So I'm excited. I imagine that's a flashback that we'll get in this arc, so I think that'll be a good flashback. Let's see. Gothatron says you should grow it out. Yeah, so my options right now are basically, I might go back to shorter hair. The long hair experiment has lasted a solid year. I might go back to shorter hair. Either way, I have to clean up the hair on the side. Either way, I got to clean up the hair on the side. The hair on the side is not looking good. It's, oh my God. It's just too much. But I do think that there is potential for me to do the hair on both sides look. I think there's potential. So I might just keep doing it. I don't know. Keenan, what's up, man? Thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 29 months. One of these days, I'm gonna be able to make the stream at my scheduled time, but that ain't today, lol. Yeah, you were scheduled for today. Ah, fuck. You were scheduled for today. Shit, man. I'm sorry. I know you got work and everything like that, but that ain't today, lol. No worries, man. I'm sure I'll see you around sometime soon. Emu removed the world's memory vid was great, though. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I definitely think that there's something like that at play amidst all this. So some sort of memory wipe at the end of the day. Some sort of memory wipe. Where we at? Meek, thanks for the 5 predictions for tomorrow's Lakers versus Mavs game. I think I would like to say the Lakers will just demolish them, but I think that it's I don't know. I think that Luka will be in it trying to demolish them, so I'm definitely looking forward to that game. But at the same time, I think that with the Lakers offense, as long as he's aggressive, I think this should be good. I think with the Lakers offense, how do I say this? I think they're still going to be in the mode of like trying to figure things out. So obviously the win against the Nuggets was huge, but I'm not yet in a place where I'm like, oh, they will just be a clicking team whenever like on call. Like it's possible Luka's too aggressive or something like that, and that doesn't work with what they're trying to do. Who knows? Although obviously the game plan for the Lakers is for Luka to be very aggressive and kind of take that role. But I'm just saying that I would like to see like some crazy Luka like legendary performance tomorrow, obviously, to really rub it into the Mavs' faces that they fucked up. But I don't know if the Lakers are in a spot just yet that they can do that on command. You know what I mean? Like they're still gelling. So it could be an ass whooping for the Mavs tomorrow, or it could be like the Hornets game or something like that. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Keenan, thanks a lot for the 5 also, man. In my opinion, Whitebeard or Blackbeard will get their hands on Pluton to give Frankie a reason to build his own / modify the Sunny. Which faction do you think will get Pluton? I do personally think... Oh, you said World Government or Blackbeard will get Pluton. I personally think the Blackbeard Pirates will get Pluton. I think the World Government... I think that sets up a nice trifecta where... Because Blackbeard just learned about Pluton, right? So I think a nice trifecta where Luffy will likely... Poseidon will likely... maybe Blackbeard captures Shirahoshi for a moment. But I think at the end of the day... I think World Government will have Uranus. I think the Blackbeard Pirates will have Pluton. I think Luffy and the Strahd crew will build themselves a new Pluton, thanks to Frankie with the Atom Wood. And I think Luffy will also have Shirahoshi on his side because that's the way the prophecy goes. And you need Shirahoshi to get the Sea Kings to do their thing, and Polnoa, and all that good shit. So, I personally just think that the Blackbeard Pirates are going to get Pluton, and I do think that the way Pluton was written into the story was heavily foreshadowed that, yeah, Pluton will be, like, Frankie will have to build a new Pluton when some evil force resurrects the original Pluton. So I think that is basically the setup there. So I agree with you. Meek, thanks for the 5. If Doflamingo wanted to be a Celestial Dragon so bad, why didn't he try to be one of the God's Knights? Maybe he'd... Plot hole? Who knows? That is a phenomenal question. Does anyone have a good answer to Meek? I don't know if... I feel like Doflamingo also was entitled at that point in time, right? So trying to be a God's Knight, when you're a kid... right? He just wanted to be welcomed back in the first place, right? Like when you're a kid signing up to be a member of the Gods Knights, like you don't, he didn't want to have to work for that or whatever. It is an interesting idea that why is it that when he got older and stronger, he didn't try to be one of the Gods Knights? But in that case, at that point, he might have just had so much residual hate for the Celestial Dragons that he was just done with that. Because it's kind of like, at this point in time, I don't think he wants to be a Celestial Dragon anymore. He just wants to burn down everything the Celestial Dragons have. So I think, I'm curious, even if they offered him in this moment. By the way, like there's some theories I have as to what the future of the Gods Knights recruitment stuff goes, so I don't want to get too far into that. But I am curious right now if in this moment Doflamingo is offered an invite to the Gods Knights, would he accept or not? I don't know. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Get the stream likes up to 50. Regal Void says he didn't want to be an underling, but the Gods Knights are above other Celestial Dragons, most likely. You're saying he didn't want to be working for someone in the Gods Knights. That's likely true. But I think it's just the case that, like, as a kid, he didn't qualify as a Gods Knight. And then you grow up hating the Celestial Dragons over time for, like, making you suffer on Earth. So by the time he's an adult, I think Doflamingo as an adult would not want to be part of the Celestial Dragons at this point anymore. He said that he just wants to see them suffer, basically, at this point, for what they put him through. Dofi was Kaido's underling, says Pocoloco. He wasn't Kaido's underling. It was pretty clear that he was not Kaido's underling. He was just Kaido's primary business partner. Doflamingo, it seemed like, also did business with lots of other people. But it was one of those business partnerships where it's like, he was his own man, he was his own entity, but he was still beholden to Kaido in a pretty significant way where things would go south for him pretty bad if he tried to if he kind of fucked up their business relationship, you know? But he still had his own independence at the end of the day. Shreeth says, do you think Kuma was taken by God's Knight? Quina was taken by God's Knights? That would be really fucking interesting. But no, I don't think so. Like, at that young age being taken by the God's Knights, that'd be kind of insane. There's just nothing. Like, how would she be strong enough to do that? That would really taint the image of the father, Koshiro. Meek says, I wonder if York is going to be God's Knight eventually too. I have some theory. I think that there's a solid short list of characters that I believe are set up to be God's Knight figures at the end of the day. I think there's a solid little short list of characters that make sense for it. So we can look out for that. Yeah, I think there's some evidence for some stuff. Yeah, the haircut time. Just it's on the horizon. It's on the horizon. It's just, I feel like I'm greedy with it because I want to see how far I can go. But maybe it's already too far gone. Maybe it can't be salvaged anymore. Who knows? Let's see. I think it almost looks good, except for this side. This side doesn't look good. But I think it almost looks good. It's hard to... I don't know. Because once you cut it, there's no real going back. There's no real going back. It's just gone. All right. Beyond that, let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick, and then we can look into getting the stream topic started. Shref says, do you think that now that the Holy Knights moved, Dragon will make a move? So the interesting situation is that it seems like the Holy Knights are going to be on Elbaf for a little bit, possibly. So the situation right now, okay, to me, there's two little paths that Elbaf can go. In this moment. Here, let me shuffle some shit around real quick. Hold on. Let me shuffle some shit around. Okay. All right. Here we go. Let me show you guys something. The fuck. All right. In my opinion, there's two routes that Elbaf can kind of go right now. All right, two routes. Here we go. All right, and I don't know if there's any spoilers or anything left out for the new chapter. I have no idea. Here's all I know. Okay. So, in Elbaf right now, you guys can see the screen. You guys can see all the stuff you need to see. Where the hell's my mouse? Okay. Yeah. So in Elbaf right now, the two routes that it can kind of go are basically right now we just started this Gods Knights game to steal kids, okay? Gods Knights game to steal kids just began, right? So to me, the two routes that can go is... And the tricky thing is they can't leave with the kids just through the pentagram. So that's the stipulation there, right? So route 1 is that this legit kicks off conflict for Elbaf. And God's Knights are here to stay for a little bit. Game is an extended process, okay? So that's route number 1, okay? I guess we don't really need the square box. Just understand, you got it. Fuck. Maybe I'll just make this smaller. Here. This is route number 1. What the fuck? Smaller. Yeah. Yeah, here we go. Okay? So that's number 1. Route number 2 is this scenario is very temporary. This scenario is temporary. Is just initial little conflict. Then God's Knights leave with kids. Elbaf has to learn how to fight again. God's Knights return at end of story. Right? Or return for battle at end. Okay? So that's the other route. Okay? Yeah, these are kind of the two routes. So I feel like the evidence for route number 1, evidence for 1, this is, if the God's Knights are here to stay, it's kind of, if the God's Knights are here to stay and like new ones keep coming, the requirement, there is a built-in reason they can't just teleport out of there, right? So it provides a reason for why the conflict can be prolonged at Elbaf. Or no, I would rephrase this. Oda established that they can't just teleport out of there, so it could be setting this up as a prolonged conflict here, right? So that's the evidence for that, and then the evidence for this one is just that Shamrock, at least, is leaving. So main meat of conflict won't be for a while, right? Yeah. I mean, that's basically the gist of it. There's basically two routes here, right? I am genuinely I think the simple option is just this. I think this will tell us a lot about how long Elbaf is supposed to be. I think the simple option is just this one, right? Option 2, where we have a little conflict here. Maybe God's Knights succeed, establish God's Knights as a problem. Kids get stolen. Story continues on from there. That's like the simple option. And then the God's Knights come back at the end of the arc to really strong arm the heroes. And then the heroes defeat the God's Knights or whatever. But then this is more interesting because it's kind of like, one, if the God's Knights take the kids from Elbaf successfully, then how would they ever even get the kids back, right? How would they get them back unless the God's Knights are stupid enough to bring them back at the end of the arc? So to me, it's kind of like the God's Knights almost can't succeed in taking away the kids. I don't know. Oh, Booty Pirates here. Here you go. Here you go. Congratulations on getting the predictions correct last time. So we're going to make you a mod. Okay. So that's kind of the divide right here. That's the divide right here as far as I see. I kind of want to give it a poll to you guys. Sheriff Laffy, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 29 months. What do you think Doflamingo's re-entry into the story will be? I think he could end up killing all the weak Celestial Dragons and die with them. So what's interesting is, like, I think that would be cool. But at the same time, Oda really doesn't like doing mass... like, he really doesn't like establishing characters are dying, even fodder, right? So Doflamingo legitimately being confirmed to be killing Celestial Dragons... I think that's quite a bit. Even though they're Celestial Dragons, you know? I don't know if Oda would go that far. Him being inducted in the Gods Knights, I think that's an interesting possibility. I just don't know if Doflamingo would accept that out of spite at this point. Him being jailbroken by Cross Guild is a possibility. Him escaping and causing some chaos for the Gods Knights is a possibility. Doflamingo's just in a really tricky spot because in terms of strength... he is no longer strong enough to be that relevant to the story, right? In that if he's freed, there are a lot of characters that can put down Doflamingo. Like, now that we're this far in the story, we know a lot of characters that can put down Doflamingo, right? And his other big point of significance was his influence, but he no longer has his influence, right? He's no longer that dude. So if he's brought back... and the last problem with Doflamingo is that nobody likes him. Right? Nobody likes him. If you're like Crocodile and you're brought back into the story, there is room there apparently for him to like he's not that giant of an asshole to other characters that like he's been able to make alliances and stuff like that, right? With Doflamingo, it's like the world government doesn't like him. Celestial Dragons, I think, maybe don't like him and he doesn't like them. I don't think that like... I don't know if other Shichibukai would want to work with him because he's just like, he's evil in a way that's like next level compared to them. Luffy and the Straw Hats don't like him. Yonko won't want to work with him. I can't imagine like Kid or like obviously fucking Law's not going to want to work with fucking Doflamingo. Right? There's just not many, and his whole subordinate group is gone, right? I could see him joining Cross Guild. It would significantly shift. Cross Guild right now is in a weird spot where it's like, it's made up of characters who are not morally good, but they're not like... Crocodile is the worst of them, and he is pretty fucking bad. But the way they're being presented so far is kind of like, they're this gray figure in the general. You're not supposed to be necessarily... Like, when Doflamingo is giving that impassioned speech to Cross Guild, it is almost supposed to be an uplifting moment. It's not like... We're not supposed to view them as out-and-out villains, like when Kaido's declaring how he's going to turn Wano into a nation of violence and move Onigashima to the capital. It's like, Cross Guild in a way you're supposed to be rooting for them. Doflamingo we're never supposed to root for in the story. So that's why I think adding Doflamingo to Cross Guild is a tough call. Doflamingo to the Gods Knights, the Celestial Dragon, seems like a natural slot to place him into, but I don't know if Doflamingo wants to be in the Gods Knights, and I think the Celestial Dragons maybe just really don't like him at this point, right? I don't know if Doflamingo wants to be with them. I don't know if the Celestial Dragons want him to be with them. So that's a tricky area. I just don't know if Doflamingo like fits anywhere that well at this point in the story. He could be his own independent player, but he no longer has the strength to be an effective independent player relative to everybody. And he no longer has the influence, most importantly, sorry. He no longer has the influence. He has knowledge, and knowledge is potentially important. Fuck, what if Doflamingo joined Mads? That was the thing with Caesar, which is just like... Caesar also seemed to have no place, but then you put together some other missing pieces, and suddenly Mads is the thing. So, like, you can click those things together, you know? Anyway, continuing on. Remix King, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 24 months. You smart for making this just One Piece. Any evil team from a Pokemon game no diffs to One Piece evil groups. You're right, Team Rocket. Everyone knows that they'd be blasting off again, you know? Like, it's just a classic, too classic of a villain group to compare to. BTW, do you catch Luca's 30-point game? No, because I assumed that it would be an ass-kicking. I just assumed that the Nuggets would fucking destroy them for, like, the 15th time in a row. So I did not watch that. But yeah, I didn't watch it. What do you guys think about the Gods Knights before we get into it? What do you guys think is going to happen here? Just a quick prediction. Okay, so basically, will God's Knights be, is this game going to become an ongoing conflict on Elbaf? Yes. God's Knights stay. No. God's Knights leave, return later. GK, yes. Primary conflict. Yes. Main conflict is started. Okay. Yeah, basically, are they kind of here to stay? Kind of says, I think these guys get whooped. If they get whooped right off the bat, I think that's just a damn waste of, like, what's even the... I can't... That would just be so underwhelming if they get whooped right off the bat. I'm not saying they need to, like, fucking... Like... I'm not saying they need to, like, defeat the monster tree or something like that, but it would just be very, very underwhelming. Very, very underwhelming. Okay, so a lot of people think that the main conflict has started. Yeah. Oof says, yeah, he hates LeBron. LeBron is my favorite player. Oof's trolling. LeBron. Ender Anami with a great Smash Bros. Melee reference. Dante Sports says Queen was so weak. What does that have to do with this? Is it because Queen technically got... The Strahds didn't whoop Queen. I don't think Queen got whooped early in the storyline. I think the only character of the Beast Pirates, notably, who kind of got a poor showing was like Page 1 early on. He was kind of used as a hype dummy. But generally speaking... Yeah, generally speaking, I think I'm always going to really like what Enies Lobby did, where it first presented CP9 as a group that seemed too strong for the Strahds, and that the Strahds all lost to them at the raid on Iceberg's mansion. You know, that raid ended in failure, which perfectly set up a sense of tension and seriousness and emotional turmoil for the protagonists, right? So I really like the fact that CP9 kicked their asses then, and then they had to turn things around and kick CP9's ass later on, right? I just think that that's always effective. In a small way, even like with the Big Mom Pirates, Luffy and Nami and company, everybody actually got pretty much Luffy, Nami, Chopper, Carrot, all got captured. They all got captured by the Big Mom Pirates at the end of the first act of Whole Cake Island, I think. I think that was effective to set in the stakes of how difficult it is to overcome them. Now, with the God's Knights, I'm not saying I need that to happen, okay? Because ultimately speaking, the God's Knights are just I don't think the Strahds need to lose to the God's Knights or anything. I'm just saying that Elbaf is not this end-all be-all arc where we need to feel like the Straw Hats are just going through the absolute... They get just crushed by the enemy group or something or whatever. I don't think this needs to be that, right? We're still building up to the final war, right? I'm just saying I don't think it would be good for the God's Knights to lose right off the bat for the Straw Hats or like look bad against them. And then the arc just continues to like... I just don't think that they should look bad right off the bat. That's all I'm saying. Even with the Seraphim in Egghead Island, right? The Strahds ultimately captured them, but Oda did it in a way that didn't disrespect the Seraphim. He made it clear that, like, when we left off with the Strahds and the Seraphim, Sanji looked cool, but beyond that, the Seraphim were shown to be a problem for pretty much everyone else. Like, Luffy and Zoro and Lucci and Kaku, even they were, like, not having an easy time taking down the Seraphim. And so then Oda off-screened the Straw Hats actually dealing with the Seraphim, and he made it clear that they did it through the bubble guns, rather than just saying, like, the Seraphim just straight up lost to the Straw Hats, right? So that's effective, because we still know that the Seraphim were a problem for the Straw Hats. And even though the Straw Hats likely could have defeated them if they went all out, we also know that the Seraphim were in their weakest forms here, like in their child forms, and they still need to grow a lot older and reach their full potential. So Oda didn't disrespect the Seraphim in that way. Same thing with the Gorosei. Oda didn't have... The only Gorosei that Oda actually straight up showed Luffy defeating was Saturn. Right? He only showed Luffy... Saturn was the only one that Oda really showed, like, ultimately really got his ass kicked. And then that was later established to be the weakest one and the one that's getting replaced. I still think Oda could have done a better job making the Gorosei actually get some W's over the Straw Hats. Mars, I'm sorry. Oda also had them take out Mars, at least remove him from the battlefield, but it was through a large-scale team attack, right? So I think ultimately Oda could have done a better job really hammering in that the Gorosei are still... He wanted to play both sides. He was like, I don't want to make the Straw Hats look bad, but then I can't have the Straw Hats defeat the Gorosei. I still have to make the Gorosei look good. So he kind of just went somewhere down the middle that left a strange tone, I guess, at the end of the day, like a mixed sort of feeling towards the Gorosei. But at the end of the day, like... You wouldn't say that the Gorosei just fucking sucked ass at Egghead, right? Like, you wouldn't be like, oh, Warcury fucking, like, got demolished, or, like, Venus Juro looked really bad. They just didn't, like, overwhelmingly win. I think as long as the Gods Knights get at least a Gorosei level... They don't have to be as strong as the Gorosei. I'm just saying in terms of how they're treated. Like, if they can be treated like the Seraphim were treated, or treated like the Gorosei were treated, where it's not like the Straw Hats, like, just kick their ass and make them look bad, but at the same time, they don't need to necessarily defeat the Straw Hats, that's fine. Just, you're setting up all the pieces for the final war. I think that's the type of portrayal that I'm hoping for, basically. If the Gods Knights just lose right now, I think that would be kind of bad. All right, continuing on. Blazing Blue, thanks for the 5. Hey, Morj, did you notice the summoning circle in 1040 has the poneglyph language within it? Thought it was interesting given your language theory. No, I did not notice that. Holy shit. That is interesting. That is interesting. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm saying that in my latest video, and thanks for pointing that out, Blazing Blue. In my latest video where I talk about how Emu likely wiped, or the Celestial Dragon, Emu likely wiped the memories of the world through some method in the Void Century. One of the biggest tells about that is just how this ancient language seems to exist that nobody can really understand. But at the same time, weirdly enough, even though that strange language exists that nobody can understand, in the modern One Piece world, everyone speaks the same language. So it's like, why is it that there was once some specific language that nobody now understands? What could have been done to erase that? Were there 2 languages back in the second world, and now we're only left with 1? Did everyone speak the same language in the second world, and then that got scrambled, and now we view it as an ancient language? We don't know. All right. JP, thanks for the 20. Not gonna lie, I'd hate it if being promoted to Celestial or Holy Knight had no reasoning beyond just being strong. York provides an ancient weapon. Loki has a legendary dove fruit. I think the occasion has to have special circumstances. I mean, York providing an ancient weapon, I think that allowing her to be promoted to Celestial Dragon makes sense. Because, I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, the Celestial Dragons are literally just normal fucking people that got promoted because they fucking won the war. But at the same time, you can kind of understand, like, once it's the same thing that's happened throughout real world history in the past, right? Like, how does a king become a king? It's just whoever is the leader that wins a war is ultimately puts himself in a position of power as king. And then from there on, there's this sort of like fake, this imaginary concept of like royal blood and how it makes the royal family bloodline superior to commoners, even though it's just you were a fucking normal person the same as everybody else before becoming king. It's just as the centuries go on, it's to reinforce the idea of one's own specialness, right? So as the centuries go on, kings, royal families, etc., they play up the importance of royal blood and how it's different from commoner blood to really separate and create a distinction of how they are just through God-given right supposed to be above the common man, right? So Celestial Dragons probably buy into that same sort of concept. I mean, probably to an even more extreme degree, even though 800 years ago they were just common people like everybody else. So many centuries have passed that now they probably attribute a lot to royal blood, special blood, right? Like Doflamingo is even giving that sort of speech, right? In his final battle against Luffy. Let's see. Right, what's Doflamingo talking about right here, right? Doflamingo is a classic celestial dragon through and through, right? Here we go. Then blame your blood. You were born to be human refuse and helpless puppets. I'm not like you humans, right? So that's how celestial dragons think. So even though logically someone like York being made a celestial dragon, it's like, yeah, what's the big deal? You just should get the same, like, you earned your way up, get the status or whatever. She doesn't have celestial dragon blood, so it's tricky. That's also my question with Gunko as well. Has it been, as far as I understand, it doesn't seem as though, it does not seem as though Gunko is a celestial dragon herself, right? Like, being made a member of the Gods Knights does not seem to be the same as being made a celestial dragon, right? York might just be so important that she's made an exception, but it doesn't seem like the same thing, right? Reverse Tower of Babel, says Andrew L. Yeah, that's actually what I talked about in the Patreon podcast for that video. I think that there's definitely some possibility to that. Jordan Vance says, I mean, Gunko doesn't have a special fruit and she's a God's Knight. Yeah, I don't know how strong you need to be a God's Knight, so we don't really have context around that with Gunko. Some people say that she might have been a former Revolutionary Army member who sold out Ginny, and that's how she got the status, and I could see that. New X7, thanks for the 5. With Dragon predicting people fighting for land and Shamrock recruiting Loki, will the Gods Knights build an army by accepting new families of celestial dragons and some accepting? Yeah, because the thing is, I do think that that's a strong possibility because, and that I have a theory in the works surrounding all that. I do think that's a strong possibility simply because if you are the celestial dragons, right? Right now, you are essentially about to attempt to to launch a war on the entire rest of the world. And you've so far been able to control the rest of the world by having them believe that the world government is an alliance of nations, right? So while the Celestial Dragons are at the core of it, you have this pretense of this united world. The Celestial Dragons were just at the top, but all these nations also all have value, and we all work together in the world government, right? And then on top of that, that's how you have Marines. You have Marines who think that, we join the world government coalition, we be the police force of it. We help make the average citizen's life better, right? You got to remember the average Marine is not trying to make life better for the Celestial Dragons. The average Marine thinks that they're joining the Marine Corps to help protect the citizens of the world and be a hero, right? So the Celestial Dragons are about to destroy that whole facade. And they're about to start committing genocide to all the innocent citizens on the planet, right? So somewhere along that line, they're going to lose a shit ton of Marines. Right? Somewhere along that line, they're probably going to lose the support of the Marines. That's why they have the replacements for the Marines, which are the Pacifista, right? Pacifista replaced the Marines in that the Pacifista are far more lethal foot soldiers than the Marines could ever be, right? In terms of higher up strength, though, right? The Marines are pretty stacked. The Admirals are very, very valuable. The Gorosei are there, but the Gorosei are not supposed to be, at the end of the day, a fighting force. It seems like they are when push comes to shove, but the Gods Knights are really supposed to be the arm of the military arm that's supposed to do missions and shit, right? So they're going to need to beef up the Gods Knights to kind of make up for the quality drop that they're losing once they lose the Marines, right? They even lost the Shichibukai, who are supposed to be under their control, so that's being replaced with the Seraphim in theory, right? So I think the fact that the Marines are probably going to be lost somewhere down the line, that's where a lot of the Gods Knights recruitment stuff is coming from. I think that's where, obviously, the fact that they've lost to Shichibukai, that's where the Seraphim program stems from, right? The fact that they're about to lose the Marines as foot soldiers, that's where the Pacifista program comes from. A lot of it is just to consolidate power tighter and tighter within the Celestial Dragons so that they have a force that can essentially replace everything that they're losing, but that is wholly and 100% Celestial Dragon centric and not really going to stray from that, right? Cut out individuality, cut out ulterior motives, things like that, Let's get stream likes to 100 real quick. Once we get it to 100, we will start the process. We're gonna be using Pub Meeple, by the way. We're gonna be using Pub Meeple for those of you who remember. So it will be a grand voting orchestrated by you all. I will for this one for real. I'll be allowing you guys to dictate pretty much the majority of it. I'll put in my 2 cents here and there, and I'll probably be a tiebreaker in some senses. Insatiable Hunger, thanks for the 5. History repeats itself. Oda writing a Game of Thrones. Who will be the next Ginny? I'm seeing writing a GOT. Game of Thrones. Who will be the next Ginny? We all know Luffy won't sit down like Dragon. As for tension, greater than Marineford Ace. You think the tension right now is greater than Marineford? I don't fully understand your comment right there, but I see what you're saying in terms of somebody in the modern day will be a traitor or something. I think that is a cool idea. I definitely think that's that'd be cool to see. I don't know who the fuck would do that. I don't know if you're on the Revolutionaries. I think the Strats are a group that obviously we would never see a traitor. I think that's one of the special things about the Strats, that there will never ever be a traitor, but I could see that happening again in the Revolutionary Army. Who knows? Yeah, I think we just gotta wait and see. Luffy won't sit down like Dragon. Yeah, if something... I'm sorry. I'm mixing up. I'm thinking about Gunko. You're saying who will be the next Ginny, so who will be stolen by the world government. I'm mixing that up. Who will be stolen by the world government, the Celestial Dragons? I don't know. I don't know about that. Who will be stolen by the world government, the Celestial Dragons? The thing is that, like, I feel as though a lot of Luffy's allies are likely going to be under attack soon regardless, right? So, Luffy was ready to go after the Celestial Dragons for Vivi, but then they kind of talked him down as that's nonsensical. I think what will happen soon is that a lot of Luffy's allies will come under attack. Fishman Island, I think Wano, I think Elbaf as well, I think even Dressrosa. I have reasons for that that I'm saving for another video. I've actually talked about it on stream, but we will get to that when we get to that. So I don't know if we necessarily need another rescue arc specifically. I think Luffy will be fighting for the sake of all of his friends come the final war. Timothy McQueen, thanks for the 10. I would love if during the Void Century flashback, everyone speaks different languages, and the ancient language is just one of many, then Imu flattens everything into just the one they speak. That would be really, really cool. That would be really, really cool, and I think that's interesting because it's just like somebody mentioned here, it's like a reverse Tower of Babel, but it has a similar effect in that it eradicates a lot of mankind's ability to rebel. JP, thanks for the 10. Roger's year ago incident with the Rocks Pirates he refers to lines up with when he allegedly reached Laugh Tale. I don't think that's true. I think that would have been Loadstar Island, right? Did they battle at Laugh Tale and lose, and the Rocks Pirates' treasure was from there? I don't think that that's quite correct. I don't even know if it's Loadstar. Yeah, because Laugh Tale was years after God Valley. Yeah, you might have been meaning Loadstar. Was it? I don't know if it was ever established. Does anyone know when Roger reached Loadstar? Is that correct? Did Roger reach Loadstar all the way back then? Is that when Roger reached Loadstar? Does anyone know? Was it a year before the God Valley incident? Because that would be perfect. That lines up. That makes the Loadstar storyline very interesting. It might even be that Roger lost a road poneglyph or something right there to Rocks, and so that's what he's trying to get back right then. Newx7, thanks for the 5. I like your video on language. It's actually the theme of Metal Gear Solid, Lingua Franca, bridge language, and if it was erased. Okay, interesting. Google Emil Clorin quote on it. Okay, let's see. Emil Clorin. Emil Clorin language quote. What is this? Lingua Franca. It is no nation that we inhabit, but a language. Make no mistake, our native tongue is our true fatherland. That is an interesting idea. I could see the reasoning behind that. I could definitely see the reasoning behind that. It does make sense in some cases, depending on how you look at things. Because it's almost like, I mean, I know it's not just language, but there's a lot of different examples. But for example, if you think about the United States, right? So we're bordered by 2 countries. I know a lot of you are not United States citizens or don't live in the United States, but I'm just using what I know, right? So I live in the United States. Up north is Canada. Down south is Mexico. Innately, you just think of Canada as more similar. Canada is almost like the U.S. light. That's how a lot of U.S. citizens think of it, right? It's almost just like, oh, Canada, they're just like us, but, just a little bit different, whatever. Largely because we all speak English, same language, same, and with language, a lot of similarities in culture, right? Mexico, it's Spanish speakers, right? It's a totally different language, so there's just some intrinsic level of like, it's a whole different world, whole different, like, along with language comes so many cultural differences. Like, language is almost a gateway to so many differences, basically, because the type of music you like is influenced by language to some degree. Like, sayings, phrases, like, just a lot of it comes along with language, and a lot of it is also just like other bigger cultural things. Race is obviously the other big thing, right? But it is just interesting. Like, I wonder if Mexico's predominant language was just English, and everyone in English, there was as many English speakers in Mexico as there were in Canada, U.S. would have less of a aversion to the idea of Mexico in general and the whole build a wall mentality or whatever, right? I wonder if like a lot of immigrants that came to the United States naturally, like for example, a lot of Indian immigrants that come over are decent English speakers, right? Versus a lot of Hispanic immigrants who come over. I think it is, a large part of it is the fact that it's not even the race difference, not even the cultural difference. I think it might just be the fact that they don't speak, a lot of them don't speak English fluently, right? That creates a sense of distance, a sense of otherness, right? That's not to say that like Indian immigrants are welcomed here, but I think that there's less of a sense of like, we need to kick those immigrants out or these immigrants out. Like, there's just this sense of like hate for people who don't speak the, like, just more of a sense, intuitive sense of otherness to people who don't speak the same language as you. I think that there is a strong psychology to that. JP, thanks for the 2. Meant to say Loadstar, not Lafto. I got you, JP. I think you might be right. Anyway. I'm just explaining that that's why there's like a sort of, in my opinion, irrational sense of dislike for particular different races and cultures. I do think, or nationalities, I do think a lot of it is language. It just kind of hammers in that, no, they're not like us, they're different from us. I don't know. Oops says you're probably right, but that stems from American insecurity, and that's from an American. I agree that it stems from American insecurity, but I imagine that if you go through history, I think that there's probably a lot of that throughout different nations historically as well. Right? I think that that's something that's probably common. Like, I can think about India, Pakistan, and stuff like that. You know, I imagine that difference in language is just like something that probably really, really hurts or really creates a bigger divide between nations. I mean, fucking like Britain, France, and Spain are all fucking just white people, right? But they fucking were at each other's throats for God knows how long. And I imagine a part of it is just that they all fucking speak different languages and shit, you know? Anyway, continuing on. All right, let's get the stream likes to 100 and we can start this thing. Where am I at? Am I behind on supers? Let me see. Did I miss something? Oh no, I missed a couple. Sheriff Fluffy, thanks for the 5. Off topic, but I always thought, oh shit. Okay, the thing that you're saying right there is something that, it is something I agree with. It will be in the video, so I'm not going to really elaborate on this. I thought Rikyogo had major God Knight vibes given how much he worships them. Do you think he'll abandon the Marines for them? I'm just going to save that for the video, man, but I'm not going to elaborate any further here. I'm just going to say that I have created a short list of characters that make a shit ton of sense for the God's Knights. That's why I do believe by the end of Elbaf, what I believe right now is that I think that by the end of Elbaf, we are losing some God's Knights. Some will be taken down. But I think that the final version of the God's Knights will be a lot stronger come the final war. So I think we might lose some weak links and gain a lot stronger God's Knights for the final war. Kind of like with the Gorosei, we swapped out Saturn for a much stronger Gorosei with possibly the strongest Gorosei, Figarland Garling, at the end of it. I think that we will see a buffed up version of the God's Knights come the final war. Ender Anami says, wait for Tuesday's video, classic Morj cash phrase. This is not a Tuesday video. This will be a video that's sometime down the line. Tuesday's video is a little different. Interesting. I want to see Loadstar. I feel like we might only see Loadstar in the Roger flashback. I think we might only see Loadstar in the Roger flashback because I never got the sense. I think it was pretty much One, I think with islands, like a lot of the cool factor is getting to see them for the first time through the Strat's eyes. Elbaf is a very, very rare situation where we actually got to see some of the island, like a very hyped up island, a very hyped up and legendary famous island in One Piece before the Strats themselves got there, right? Elbaf is a rare example of that because we saw it through the Big Mom flashback. Loadstar, I feel like seeing it through Roger, but the thing with Elbaf is, at least with the Big Mom flashback, we only got a glimpse of it, so we didn't see all of the cool stuff, right? We barely saw a little bit of it. Like the Giants even explained, like a lot of people get to Elbaf and see only what's the name of the bottom realm? A lot of people get to Elbaf and they only see the lowest realm, and then they think that that's the main part of Elbaf, but it's actually not. So with Loadstar, I feel like we will get to see a lot of the important shit of it through Roger's flashback, maybe, and I think that might negate the need to see it through the Strat's eyes, just because we've only got so much time. Like the story, I feel like the story's got to be tighter and tighter the further we go. I don't know what we would get out of visiting Loadstar at this point, because it was basically communicated to us that you don't need jack shit at Loadstar. You need the road poneglyphs, you know? Yeah, it'll be a video down the line. JWP, thanks for the 5. Hey, Morjman, what's up? Good to see you as always, JWP. Super random, but have you played Elden Ring yet? I remember we talked about it like a year ago. I am probably going to start playing Elden Ring pretty soon. I'm going to start playing Elden Ring pretty soon, just because I've set up my schedule in a way that I have some more free time now. So I don't like playing video games when I feel like I'm low on free time, because I know myself. And, like, I know that, like, when I'm feeling very stressed with work things, that one of my natural inclinations is just to basically, like, be like, okay, let me take a quick break and, like, play a game, right? And that break quickly turns into, like, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or not more than 30 minutes is fine. It turns into, like, an hour, 2 hours. And especially with FromSoft games just fucking suck you in, man. Because, like, the FromSoft cycle, right? I remember from when I was playing Bloodborne this last summer, I want to say summer, fall time, maybe late summer, or maybe it was early summer. I was playing Bloodborne in early summer, I think. I remember when I was playing Bloodborne, and it was just like the FromSoft cycle, the way it sucks you in is just you're getting through a difficult area, and you're telling yourself, like, okay, let me just get through this difficult area, let me get to, because you can't save at certain points, right? You need to either get yourself a shortcut, or you're just starting from scratch again, right? Or you're trying to get to the next bonfire or lantern or whatever, right? So you're doing that. You're getting through. You hit your bonfire, and you're like, okay, let me just check out a little bit further ahead out of curiosity. And then suddenly you find yourself pretty far into the next area, right? So you're trying to get through this difficult area, and finally you get to what you're looking for, which is the next boss, right? So you're at the next boss, and it's like, okay, cool. Now's a good time for me to put down the controller and just take, like, my breaks over, done, get back to work, right? But then you're just curious. You're like, that boss looked like, I got a glimpse of it. It looked pretty cool. Okay, I just want to take a look and see what it can do and kind of get the vibe of the boss. So then you do the boss run back, and then you're playing the boss again, and it's like, oh shit. Now I'm entertained. Like, now I'm having a good time. So it's like, okay, let me just do a couple more cracks at the boss just to kind of get a little bit better of a feel, and then I'll tackle it later on. And then you're doing the boss a couple times, and you're like, fuck, this is a lot of fun. Okay, I'm making progress. I think I can actually do it. And then you're sucked in for the next hour trying to beat this boss. And because it's a FromSoft boss, you don't actually know when you're going to beat it, right? Maybe you get it pretty quick, but maybe it ends up taking you like 2 hours. And once you're making a lot of progress and getting to the next phase and stuff, you don't really want to put the controller down and wait for like another day to do it. You're like, no, but I think if just like a few more tries, I can get it. And then so you beat the boss finally, and it's like, fuck, like I've spent, this break has gone on way longer than it needed to be. But now you feel good because you beat the boss, so it's like, I feel good. I feel good about myself. You know what? Let me just wander the next area a little bit just because, like, I want to wind down a little bit. And now I beat the boss so I can freely explore a little bit. And now you're sucked into the next area because it turns out the next area is interesting and you want to explore the next area. So FromSoft games really suck you in. Anyway. New X7 says, Morj missing the epicness that is Metal Gear. He just needs to watch other people play it. I have. I swear I've told you guys the Metal Gear story. I swear I've told you guys the Metal Gear story on stream multiple times. I had a friend in high school, he loved playing video games. It was a family friend, really, so it wasn't like my friend, but he was a year younger. So if you have a family friend who's a year younger, then you're just expected to hang out at points or whatever, right? I was forced to go over to his place. I think this would have been very early high school for me. My mom, his mom, they set up whatever. I have to go to his place for a sleepover. I'm dreading this. I do not really like this person, and he is a huge video game nerd. Okay? So I get there, and what do you know? He wants to fucking play, I think it's Metal Gear 3. I think he got this game for the Xbox. He wants to play it. And I don't want to play it. It's not a fucking two-person game. It's a single-person game. But the idea is that he'll play some, and then I'll play some, and we take turns. That's the concept. I fucking hate this game because it's just a game about sneaking around. It's a game about sneaking around. You're just sneaking around 24/7. And if in moments you can fight, like a little bit, but not in like a John Wick, like, oh, you're badass, you can like just carve through enemies type of way. It's kind of like you're sneaking around, and if like one person kind of finds you, then you can beat them, obviously, but it's not like you just tear through them. And if like 4 or 5 people, like if now the alarms have been sounded and like people are really coming after you, you probably fucking lose the level. Okay, so the game kind of sucks, in my personal opinion, because it's just a game of like sneaking around and hiding. And I just personally feel like stealth is pretty much always like the worst part of video games. It's like fun in spurts, but Metal Gear is like, well, what if we took that thing that's fun in spurts and just made it like 90% of the game? And I'm just like, well, I don't know. I think you guys just didn't make a good game, in my opinion. Anyway, I would have no fun sneaking around and getting caught and stuff, and then to clear levels, I'd have to give the controller to him, and then watch him play for a while. And then as the night progressed, basically, it was just like, okay, well, you're clearly doing better at this, so why don't you just play in general, and I will just pretend to watch, but really be mentally zoning out and waiting for this to end. And yeah, that was basically how that went. So I don't like Metal Gear. Anyway, continuing on. Let's get the stream likes to 100 real quick, and we can start the process. So for those of you guys who want to understand, let me see. Ranking engine. Dismiss. I think it's a characters. Okay, so I basically have to do this. I forget exactly how it works. It's just like, enter items here. What's text entry? Enter items here. Okay, so here's the general concept. We can do this one of two ways, all right? We are going to be pitting enemy groups across One Piece against one another. So it's not just villains, it's enemy groups, right? So it's not just, like, Crocodile, it's all of Baroque Works, right? Which ones were the best in One Piece's history? And I think the simple rule I'm going to give is that they have to be antagonists for a full arc. Okay? I think they have to be antagonists for a full arc. I think if you were to say straight up what is the best villain group, I think, how do I say antagonist for the Straw Hats for a full arc? Like, okay, the way that there's two routes that we could do it, right? Because route 1 is basically route 1 would be including like generally shit like really broad shit, right? Like Blackbeard pirates, you know? Blackbeard pirates, celestial dragons, like just general marines, shit like that. Like groups that the Strats haven't really fought and defeated. Or we could go arc by arc and do, you know, like the Black Cat pirates, Krieg pirates, the Fisherman pirates, right? Like Baroque Works, CP9, Anos Priests. Just go through all, like, the two options are basically either we're going through all the groups the Straw Hats have defeated, or generally villain groups throughout the story, regardless of whether or not the Straw Hats actually defeated them, right? So if we're doing general, then it's now including Blackbeard pirates, Gorosei, things like that, you know? I personally, when I was making this stream concept, I was thinking more so we would just do groups that the Strats have defeated. It's more of a fair comparison because you're getting a focused, intensive time with said villain group. Versus something like the Gorosei is like a broad concept for us right now. We still haven't really seen them in action over the course of full, like Blackbeard Pirates. I don't know. You see what I'm saying? Let's do arc by arc. Let's do arc by arc. Otherwise, it's too specific. You know. If I were to say straight up, what is the best antagonist group in all of One Piece? Like, the group that I would say is so phenomenal that I would argue that it is up there as, like, I would argue that it has a legitimate case for being the best antagonist group in all of, like, manga that I've read. Would you guys want to take a guess? You guys want to take a guess as to what antagonist group I'm thinking of? JWP, thanks for the 5. Arc by arc sounds better. It's more unique. We've done a lot of different versions of ranking general stuff. Yeah, let's do arc by arc. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. I like that better. And it keeps things tighter and gets less into gray areas. It's just very understandable, right? Yeah, like then cross guild becomes a thing. Like it's just cross guild becomes a thing. It's too broad. CP9, CP9, CP9. No. I think that the villain group that is in One Piece that I would genuinely argue is like one of the greatest villain groups in all of anime, manga, whatever you want to say. It's the Marines. I think the Marines, as a concept from top to bottom, are such a fantastically layered villain organization in that they're not technically a villain organization in the like they're an antagonist and villain organization from our perspective as the reader. But functionally, what they are is so much more nuanced and so much more complex. And there's so much, like, you go down marine by marine by marine from top to bottom, like, from the very tippy top. Aokiji, Kizaru, Akainu, Sengoku. Complex, nuanced characters with so much going on with them. So much gray, so much more moral dilemmas, etc., right? And then you go from top to bottom, and it's like, you got Smoker here, you got Kobe here, you've got just so much variation among the Marines in terms of like what is it to really, what exactly do they represent, the different types of justice that they represent across the whole spectrum. I just think that there's just the whole breadth of what the Marines are is just so ridiculously interesting, and I would pit that against any other villain organization in any other story. I find the Marines just absolutely fascinating, right? But that's too broad, in my opinion, to put in a list like this, if that makes sense. Taptier Treviso says Marines are not a group. I would agree that I'm not going to put them in this list, but they are very much a group. I don't really know what to say. I think the Yonko are not a group. Like, the 4 emperors are 4 separate emperors, right? I wouldn't just be like, oh, the Yonko are the most interesting villain organization because they're not an organization. But the Marines are an organization. They are a singular organization. There's an organization known as the Marines. It's just really big, but that doesn't disqualify it from being a singular entity, you know? Once you're splitting things up, like Cypherpole is technically connected, like it's all under the world government, but it's separate institutions, you know? Kindbass says, yeah, they're more of a massive institution, not like a pirate group. Yeah, I was talking about, like, in general, if I'm talking about, like, villain organizations, you know? Villain organizations throughout various stories. I think the Marines are up there as the most interesting to me in terms of villain, like, narratively, they are villains, right? They're the most interesting villain organization that I can think of off the top of my head. All right, continuing on. Cloud Champion says, no other manga villain group feels as huge a proper army. Yeah, like that scale, that scope, and just that level of nuance from top to bottom across them, you know? Kirby and Hales Jatar says, way too soon to put Blackbeard in the conversation, honestly. Yeah, and I think that's why we'll go arc by arc, because otherwise it's just like, there's some groups that are really interesting, like the fucking Blackbeard Pirates or Cross Guild, but we just don't have enough to really, like, meet there to really compare. So, let's get into it. So, from top to bottom. Buggy Pirates, not Fleet, just OG group, right? Black Cat Pirates, Krieg Pirates, Fisherman Pirates, Arlong version, just to clarify. Wapple. Drum. I don't think the drum army is too minor to even include, right? It's literally just Wapple, Mario, like and Wapple and Chess Mario. I don't even remember their individual names. Chess and Kuro Marimo. I'm gonna leave them out. No, we can keep them in. Drum army. It's literally just 3 characters. I guess you could say that the same about Buggy's group, because it's just Buggy, Kabaji, Moji. You got Richie the Lion. Whatever. Drum Army, Baroque Works, Skypia Priests, Foxy Pirates, CP9. What's Moria's crew called? Does anyone remember what Moria's crew is called? What's Moria's group called? Does anyone remember? Gecko Moria crew name. Thriller Bark Pirates. Okay. Thriller Bark Pirates. Flying Fish Riders, I guess I could put. Then I guess we're good for pre-time skip. I think we're good for pre-time skip. New Fisherman Pirates. What's after New Fisherman Pirates? I'm just gonna put Donquixote Pirates. I'm not really gonna bother with Caesar's group. We can just hit the main ones, really, right? Donquixote Family. Beast Pirates. And here's where it gets tricky. Do we count Big Mom Pirates or not? Because the Straw Hats don't really defeat them in that. Big Mom Pirates are complicated because the Straw Hats don't defeat them in the traditional way. Like, really, Luffy is the only one that really takes out a Big Mom Pirate, or he takes out Katakuri and Cracker. There's so many Big Mom Pirates that go unexplored, you know? It doesn't feel like a CP9 or Beast Pirate group or like Baroque Works where it's really like they're the Straw Hats' enemies at the end of the day. Okay, we'll count them. They are a villain group. I guess it's just like, if the consistency with all of these is that these are all villain groups that we ultimately got a full dedicated storyline of the Strats going up against them and defeating them, and we kind of got to see all that the group had to see, right? Like, the Big Mom Pirates, I still feel like it was a huge organization. The Strats kind of ran in, took out a few of them, ran away, and then the rest of the organization, we never really get to... They show up to Wano, but then they don't actually get to participate outside of Big Mom herself and Perospero. I just feel like there's so much to the Big Mom Pirates that we just never really got to see as a villain group. Like Smoothie's their fucking second best, and we didn't get to see jack shit of her. Like, she has, 10 lines of dialogue? It's just weird. You know, like, there's so many characters that were hyped up in the Big Mom Pirates. Like, Smoothie, obviously, but Snack, this 4th general, Streusen, who they commented was like, oh, he's like surprisingly a lot stronger than we realized, right? We got a bit of Daifuku Oven, then Kampote was built up, and then there's so many, like fucking Bobbin. It's just, it feels to me like we didn't really get to explore the breadth of the Big Mom Pirates the way we did with these other groups. I think they're phenomenal as a concept, and I really like a lot of the Big Mom Pirates. They just feel very different. Like, the rest of these are all groups that the Strats came head-to-head with, and the Strats took them all out like dominoes, right? The Big Mom Pirates are the only exception in that they're a group that the Strats, like... The Strats showed up, fuck with them a little bit, ran away, and then we never really got to explore the rest of what they were really about. So it feels a little bit different to me. I agree the Big Mom Pirates are incredible as a group, but to me it's almost similar in that, like, there's so much that I feel like we've yet to understand about the Big Mom Pirates. It's kind of like I view the Marines as a phenomenal villain organization, but they feel different to me than like these other groups that the Strats have actually just like gone head to head with over the course of an arc and taken out. Does that make sense? It just, like, to me, in terms of the interaction that the Strats had with them, all of these other interactions are identical. The Big Mom Pirates are the odd man out in that they're the only villain group that... There were the villains of that arc, but the Strats ultimately don't really defeat them, you know? They don't really defeat them, and we don't really get to see the vast majority of them in action. I don't know. It's hard to say. Yeah, we can vote on it. I'm fine with keeping it in. To me, they're like in between the category of like villain group that we just generally didn't get to see enough of, or like villain group that like it just doesn't fall in the same category quite as the rest. But at the same time, the Strats did go up against them just because they didn't get to fight most of them. I don't really know. Let's vote. All right. It's generally easier for me to do comparisons when the way things play out are very similar, right? So like when I think CP9 and I compare that to Beast Pirates, ultimately the way the story played out for them, which is like they all end up as matchups for the Straw Hats, it's very similar, right? Same with like Strats versus Baroque Works, Strats versus... For all of these, essentially, I can think of like Strats versus Fisherman Pirates, Strats versus Baroque Works, Strats versus Skypia Priest, Strats versus CP9, etc. All of them down the line, it's like a very consistent sort of framework. Strats versus Big Mom Pirates isn't really a thing, so it's just hard for me to really place them. But everybody wants to include them pretty much, so I'm down. I understand why they make sense. Anime Dimension, thanks for the 5. Egghead Pirates, Kuma, Kizaru said tomorrow in Pacifista, and Saboti Archipelago Island. They're technically villains of the arc. In a sense, yes, but I'm not going to include them. All right, everybody, let's get the stream likes up to 100. I think if you include the Big Mom Pirates, it almost opens the door, in my mind, to certain other groups that I wasn't planning on including, like the Gorosei. I think the Gorosei still have their time. Like, I think that was just introducing the Gorosei as a concept. We never got to see the Strats versus the Gorosei. Blackbeard Pirates, similar. Like, just because we get interactions between the groups. Ultimately, I'm looking at groups that the Strats actually take on and defeat over the course of the arc. I feel like that never happened with the Big Mom Pirates. That's why I view them as an exception. But I agree that they're not that much of an exception, so it still makes sense to do it. Anyway, continuing on. Okay, we got the stream likes up to 100. So now what do? I always forget this part. I guess add. Okay, there we go. All right, 14 items. All right. So now we're at the rank part. And how does this work again? Save. God damn it. Do I have to save it? How did I do this before? Okay, I guess this is good. Maybe I do have to save it. Hold on. Let me take care of this shit. Let me do this shit. Just put them in. We don't have limited space to go around or anything. That's true, but here's the thing. So the way Pub Meeple works is that it's going to match up everybody against everybody. So adding in even a single additional item, it's not like a tier list, right? It's going to do a round robin. And so for a round robin, adding in any additional items essentially, or does something close to round robin. Adding any additional items significantly increases the time span. Oh, it looks like I don't have to make an account or anything. Never mind. All right. Getting back into it. All right, everybody. Krieg Pirates versus Skypia Priests. I should... Wait. Can I go back to the list? This will terminate the... Yeah, okay. Let me edit the Skypia priests. Because it's not just the priests, it's also NL, right? So can I edit this a little bit? Can I edit this? Here, let me get rid of these and add another. Okay, Skypia NL plus Skypia God's Army. I'll just say God's Army. That makes sense. I think that's what they're called in the story as well. So I got God's Army in there. All right. And let's rank this shit. Javon Johnson, thanks for bringing a Yonko to your member for 11 months. Hey, Morj, do you think Elbaf will be an arc where most Strats will get fights, or will it be like Egghead where it's just skirmishes? Phenomenal question. Who else is wondering that? Just let me know in chat. What do you guys, who else is wondering that? Who else is curious? Is Elbaf going to be an arc where most of the Strats get 1v1s, or is it going to be like Egghead where it gets skirmishes? Who else is wondering that? Who else has that top of mind? Who else is thinking about that? Who else is thinking about that? I imagine that's a question that's on a lot of your all's minds. I don't know why I'm dragging this out. That's what tomorrow's video is about. There is, in fact, a pretty constant pattern that Oda has stuck to throughout the story that seems to dictate, like literally without exception, which arcs the Strats do get fights or don't get fights. There is a pattern that literally Oda has not broken from the start of the story that dictates which are the arcs that a lot of Strats are going to get 1v1s and which are the arcs where like it's just Luffy getting a fight and everybody else gets skirmishes. It is actually shockingly consistent. So I'm not going to say that means that Oda won't break his rule for Elbaf. Oda can always break his rules, right? They're his rules. He makes them up. But there is a pattern that I want to show you guys in tomorrow's video that it goes through. It is a shockingly consistent pattern. Oda does not stray from it, or he has not strayed from it so far in the story. So I'm going to leave it to tomorrow's video. So you guys watch out for that. All right, we're going to keep going. What the fuck are these icons for the groups? I don't fucking pick the icons. The machine, the AI. Blame AI. AI technology is not as advanced as we think, right? All right, continuing on. Here's our first match. Oh, shit. This is too much. Do we want this as our first matchup? This is a bit too much for our first matchup, right? I think this is too much for our first matchup. I'm going back. We're gonna. That's too much of a heavy hitter to begin with. It's too much of a heavy. We're gonna hit rank again. All right. We've still got our 14 items. That's coming in too hot. Don't want to continue. Yes. All right, let's do it again. All right. It's too much. That's something that could be a solid 5-minute debate. That's too much. We got to do. That's too much. It was an easy one. Come on, man. It was too much. Let's go. Rigged. I'm not even pushing in favor of either one of those. It's just the flow of the stream. I need to edge you all. It's my job as the streamer to edge you guys. That's my job. That's what I come on here every Monday night to do, to edge you all. I would not be doing my job as a streamer if I wasn't effectively doing that. All right? So we are not going to prematurely blow our load on the Beast Pirates versus CP9 at the beginning of this stream. Just to keep it PG, that's the way I think about this shit. All right? So let's keep going. Not to get too crass, all right? Not to get too crass, but that's just the way it is, all right? Anyway, God's Army versus Buggy Pirates. I think this is pretty fucking straightforward, right? God's Army was significantly more... Like, Buggy Pirates went down in, 4 chapters, right? Fucking Kabuji was the second best fight. Do I need to do a poll for that one? It's Buggy Pirates, the OG group, not the fleet. It's the OG group, right? It's I'll throw it as a poll to you guys, but vote honestly. Vote honestly. NL Ohm. I feel like the Buggy Pirates will win because of memes, but like it's Buggy wasn't like an iconic villain and his group weren't iconic villains in East Blue when the arc first happened. You know? Like they weren't even I think now that Buggy has gained so much prevalence in the story, you might have different feelings on that, but this was like a really like oh shit. Oh wait, I can undo. All right, we're good. I didn't realize that clicking on it. I should have realized that clicking on it does that, but don't mind that. All right. You guys got to remember, like early on, Buggy's group was literally just like a random ass villain of the week clown group that they beat. You know what I'm saying? God's Army weren't either, to be honest, just NL. That's true. And you know what? Maybe I'm being unfair because the Buggy Pirates remain relevant throughout the story. Vote how you guys want to vote. I'll stop trying to influence. Yeah, they come back in Loadstar, but they come back in Loadstar to be a joke that immediately gets kidnapped. Like, a joke where it's just like, oh, it's just Buggy, right? Like, it's just like they get captured in one chapter by Smoker, you know? Alright, it seems like people are leaning God's Army, but I'll stop trying to influence the vote too much. Unless I think something's ridiculous. New Fisherman Pirates versus CP9, I'm going to go ahead and not put that to a vote. I think that's... Maybe... Should I put each one of these to a vote? I think it said that it will take 30 matchups to get there. So it's not crazy, right? Maybe it's fair to just put everything to a vote. JWP, thanks for the 5, man. I'll give you guys my personal ranking at the end. JWP, thanks for the 5, man. NL's Priests were probably my least favorite villain group in One Piece, hard carried by by NL and Gadatsu cover story. NL's Priests, they just... It's tricky because they weren't even like... It's tricky because they weren't even like weak or non-threatening. Because if you remember, Satori was low-key. Satori is fucking annoying, but he was... I think there was just something... There was something about Enel's Priests. I think just the fact that this whole thing was so disconnected from the Blue Sea and everything. Satori was like a significant challenge for Luffy and Sanji with Usopp as a bonus, right? And that's kind of crazy because, like, that was like the third strongest priest, you know? So Satori being a challenge for them was significant. Like, that doesn't happen that often, that Luffy struggles that much with somebody that's, like, not even first, like, 3 subordinates down. You know what I mean? Like, even against Mr. 3, Luffy didn't have, like, as much of a trouble as he did against Satori. I think it's not till, like, Cracker that Luffy, again, struggles against somebody like that. So it's interesting because, like, the struggle is there, but I think people just don't care for the There's something about, like, Satori was annoying. I think that was one thing. Then Shura went down immediately to Wiper, so we don't see much of Shura. Zoro versus Ohm is, like, a decent fight, but it's not that long. It's, like, a fine fight. It just doesn't rank as one of Zoro's better fights. And, yeah, Satori was a significant threat, but I think he was so annoying that people didn't like that he was such a roadblock. Like, I don't think people enjoy the Luffy and Sanji fight versus Satori. I think for a lot of people, it's like, Luffy should just take care of this guy. So, I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors to that. I think there might... Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to it. There's also Yama that got, like, neg-diffed by Robin. JWP says they were just, like, barely characters. Yeah. Gadatsu is funny, though. Gadatsu is very funny. I think he's one of the better funny comedy gags in One Piece. Fisherman Pirates Arlong version versus Big Mom Pirates. Here we go. So Fisherman Pirates Arlong version are obviously, like, Arlong Park, right? Like, Arlong, Hachi, Kurubi, etc., right? Are they supposed to be called the Arlong Pirates? I fucking forget. Are they supposed to be called the Arlong Pirates? Let's get stream likes up to 150 real quick. Yeah, Big Mom Pirates are taking that. I would expect that. Just natural. I think Katakuri alone is more interesting than the entirety of the Fisherman Pirates. Sheriff Laffy, thanks for the 2. The priest had mediocre designs, which hurts them. Yeah. I think there was just something. So a big reason that a lot of people don't fuck with Skypia on the first go around. People think they like Skypia a lot now because of the new lore stuff that we've learned, right? But I'm pretty sure that a big reason people just don't. One, it's the anime pacing that most of us experience Skypia first in the anime. So the anime pacing is very slow, particularly slow in Skypia. I think the animation is not great in Skypia. I think it ticks up from the Water 7 storyline onwards. Slow story, like there's not much. It's a long storyline, but unlike Alabasta, it's longer than Alabasta, but it doesn't have as much like build up. Like Alabasta, there was hype to slowly building the storyline to take down Crocodile. Skypia, it felt like the thing with Skypia is I think that it felt like it was the longest. It was a very, very long side quest, a remarkably long side quest. I think the Skypia arc was longer than Alabasta arc, but the Skypia arc just comes out of. Obviously, you have Jaya preceding it to get there, but Skypia as an island in itself, there's no prior setup to the conflict of the island. Whereas with Alabasta, there's a lot of prior setup to the conflict of defeating Crocodile, etc. So you got a lot of build up to this payoff. That's a very long arc relative to its time. Alabasta was long relative to its time, but it's still a climax to a building storyline of taking on Baroque Works, arc after arc after arc. They're moving towards taking on Crocodile. Whereas Skypia, you're dropped into this story that's literally on another planet, essentially. Not literally on another planet, but literally on another ocean. Like, it's disconnected from everything else that we've learned about so far. Just has no connection, zero connection, at least at that point in time as far as we knew. No connection whatsoever, totally new setting. No build-up to the storyline, really. Like, we're being told all this new stuff about this guy, Enel, Priest, etc. And you're in for a very, very long storyline that also is not that Straw Hat-centric. So it's just a lot of factors that make you. It's a lot of factors that make Skypia feel like just this very long, dragged out side quest, and then the priests being maybe not the most compelling characters just adds to that. Enel being extremely powerful, but ultimately like kind of a bitch once his powers are taken away from him. That adds to that sense. It's a lot of that stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of factors. The designs, sure. Yeah, Andrew L says we went from having a clear goal to a vague threat. I would add that one of the biggest pieces that hurts Skypia is just the timing of it. So I think if Skypia came like early in the story, people would have really loved it. Like if you remember East Blue, there's no really overarching storyline outside of like maybe getting to like Nami's past, right? It's very villain of the week, random island. If during East Blue, we were suddenly taken to Skypia and it's like, holy shit, we're in the fucking heavens and like we're up against God and like these serious legitimate threats, these priests and everything like that, it would have felt really grand and epic back then. The problem is that at the time that Skypia, when we got shipped off to Skypia, the problem is at that point in the story, finally, the larger plot of One Piece of the Blue Sea was starting to come together. Because right before Skypia, so we just defeated Crocodile and everything like that, so that's cool. But then on top of that, now we're getting this big Shichibukai meeting. We're learning about Whitebeard and Shanks, their upcoming meeting. Like, we're having that meeting with the highest powers of the world, right? Like, that's an epic chapter for that period of time. We're learning more about, like, Ace's plot to get to Blackbeard. We're being introduced to Blackbeard. All of these, suddenly, like, the biggest leap forward in terms of world building on One Piece happens right after Alabasta. That's when the biggest leap forward in terms of world building happens. We're getting the Shichibukai meeting, Whitebeard introduction, Shanks and Whitebeard meeting set up, Blackbeard introduction, Blackbeard for Shichibukai set up, Ace's chase for Blackbeard finally being fleshed out. All of that stuff, Whitebeard World's Strongest Man is established. So much setup happens right then that suddenly, and like I think, yeah, like all that setup happens right then. And so it's like suddenly the world of One Piece, like we begin to actually understand what the world is like, right? We begin to actually understand that the world has so many interesting things going on. And right then is when we're being shipped off to a very, very extended side quest that is longer than any prior arc. So I think the timing is just a little bit tricky with Skypia. It did have to, in the grand scheme of One Piece, let me clarify. In the grand scheme of One Piece, it comes at the perfect time. In the grand scheme of One Piece, it comes at the perfect time because just as you're setting up the broader world of One Piece, that is the perfect time to now do this extended detour that is secretly very important for the lore down the line. But it's good to do this detour because once you come back from Skypia, the whole story is just going to take off. After they come back from Skypia, that's when the whole world government plotline begins. Like Water 7 and East Lobby, you really learn about what the bigger problem is affecting the One Piece world. Then you learn about the three powers. Then you're careening into the Marineford saga and the Great War and everything like that. Everything just takes off. Like the whole world takes off after Skypia. So in the grand scheme of things, it comes at the perfect time. It's just that if you're a new viewer, especially with the way the anime does it, it can feel like a very slow side quest because you don't have the broader perspective. You don't have the broader perspective, so it's kind of like, okay, finally this whole world of One Piece is starting to come together. So many interesting things are happening, so many interesting characters, and we're leaving it. And we're leaving it in a way that it's not even possible that any interesting character that we just met could possibly show up in fucking Skypia, right? Like, in Alabasta, you're in Alabasta, and it's like, oh shit, Smoker's here, right? Oh shit, Ace is here, right? Oh shit, we're learning about Blackbeard. We're even though Alabasta is very focused on the Crocodile storyline, there's other things that are developing that are set up for future storylines. Skypia, we're just in our own bubble. Like, in a bubble so far away from everything else, and we're in that bubble for an extremely, extremely, extremely long time. Longer than any other arc we've ever been, right? So that's just where... And again, the anime, I don't think does Skypia great justice in terms of how quality the animation is for that arc. So I think that's why Skypia can feel like a drag on the first run-through of One Piece. Anyway, and the God's Army and Enel's Priest and stuff feeling more half-assed compared to Baroque Works contributes to that. So long tangent over, but continuing on. Just some guy with naturally wavy hair. Thanks a lot. I love how Oda is taking his time to introduce God's Knights one at a time and not like 6 Tobiropo characters in one chapter. Yeah, I think that is a that's a really good point. That's a really good point. It does get me excited for the God's Knights for the future. Because on the one hand, I was like, man, we're only getting 2, so Oda's really gonna like drag this out. But then on the other hand, it's like, no, that's good. That's really good. Like, one of the reasons CP9 were such a cool group is because we first spent so much time with that first batch of CP9 agents, like building the mystery with Lucci. Like, first we knew Lucci, Kaku, and Khalifa. We got to know them as just like incognito, like separate side characters, right? Then we get to spend all this time with them, like in the actual raid on Iceberg's Mansion, where just the 4 of them really get to shine, and then they're the whole raid on Frankie's warehouse scene with them, and then the whole sea train battles with them. Like, it's a very extended segment of time to spend with just them. And then once they get to Enies Lobby, you're just adding a few more characters. You're adding Jabura, Kumadori, and Fukuro, who are all big personalities themselves that are very vibrant personalities that, like, you can quickly get the feel for very very rapidly, right? Funnily enough, with the Tobiropo, the only one that Oda introduced early on was fucking page 1. You know? Similarly, like, King is, I think, the coolest Calamity, but for whatever reason, Jack was the one that Oda made, like, he devoted a whole arc to Jack being the primary antagonist when Jack is like, it's just random. Like, Oda took the worst Tobiropo, and he's the Tobiropo that we got to meet and face as an antagonist early on in Wano, right? Oda took the worst Calamity and gave him his whole own arc as the primary villain. Like, Jack was the main villain of Zou for no fucking reason other than to, like, go down in a fucking super sidebar, like, 5-panel fight with Inuarashi in Wano. I don't know. Continuing on. Thriller Bark Pirates versus Baroque Works. I think Queen getting some time to shine in Udon was really good for Queen. Like, say whatever you will about Queen being, like, kind of a meme character. Queen is at least a memorable character. And Army says, remember when Luffy was going to fight Jack? That was a rough prediction on my part. I'm not going to lie. I think I was on a bit of a correct track. I'll say I was on a bit of a correct track when I said that I almost thought I was set to be correct. I almost thought I was set to be correct because there was this whole storyline going of like Luffy defeats Katakuri and he improves his observation haki, right? Learns advanced future sight. I was correct in that the next step is that Luffy now needs to improve his armament haki. He needs to get advanced armament haki, right? I thought Jack was the perfect... Jack fucking shows up in Kuri. Like, Jack's fucking there. As this mini-boss or whatever. He just gets supplanted by Kaido. And Luffy's next step was, in fact, getting better at advanced armament haki. It's just that he never debuts it against any character. He just goes straight to Kaido as his first test dummy for advanced armament haki. So I was totally off on that. I will say that the idea that Luffy's next step being... he needs to get some more reps in with advanced armament haki. I thought that was correct. But I was totally wrong about the Jack stuff. Jack was way less significant than I thought. Totally wrong on that. I think that... I didn't realize that the whole pattern of, like, Luffy sometimes getting to take on, like, a mini-boss before the big boss, like Mr. 3 before Crocodile, right? Satori before Enel, Blueno before Lucci, Cracker before Katakuri. Like, Luffy getting an early fight against a weaker character before then taking on the big bad of the arc, that seems to be done with. I don't think Luffy's really doing that anymore. At least in Wano, that wasn't the case. Luffy just was going 10 rounds with Kaido over the course of Wano, basically. I'm at, like, Luffy's not going to beat one of Blackbeard's subordinates, I imagine, before taking on Blackbeard. I guess Luffy beating Saturn before then taking on Imu. Because Luffy beat Saturn at Egghead, right? Essentially. And then Luffy's taking on Imu. So maybe that applies there. But I don't know. Baroque Works, let's go. Foxy Pirates versus Donquixote Family. Do I need to do a poll for this? I don't think there's a poll one, right? I think we'll just move it along. Black Cat Pirates versus Drum Army. Interesting. Alright, this is an interesting one. I think it's still pretty clear cut. But you guys tell me. Kirby and Hales Jotaro says, does Kizaru count in that pattern? I don't know. Yeah, maybe Kizaru versus Akainu. We'll see. It's still up in the air, technically, whether or not Luffy fights Akainu. Yeah, I lean Black Cat Pirates. Just more threatening, actually pose more of a problem. And Luffy versus Luffy versus Kuro is genuinely, like, I gotta tell you guys, like, for kid me, when I would watch One Piece, 4Kids dub on TV... the fights were just, like, Luffy's fights against villains were just so insanely gripping because it did not, like, it just, I still remember watching Luffy, like, I'd missed most of the Syrup Village arc, but I was tuning in during Luffy versus Kuro, and it really, like, the part where Kuro's standing on Luffy's arm and stuff like that, it really just seemed like Kuro was leagues above Luffy, and Luffy's just such a goofy character that I didn't really get the idea that he's actually is supposed to be really strong. So it really just seemed like Luffy's up against this character who's, like, super fast. Luffy can't catch him in anything. And, like, the fight's just... I'll always say that the biggest difference as a child that you realize between watching an anime episode and an anime fight versus, like, a normal fight is just the pace. Anime fights will take place over several episodes. Whereas... American cartoons, like, you're used to, like, Teen Titans or something like that, introducing new story, conflict, new villains, and then all in the span of 20 minutes, and then wrapping up with, like, a 2-minute fight, 3-minute fight at the end. You're used to that structure, right? The idea that, like, Luffy is fighting against this guy Kuro, and we're cutting back and forth to this fight over the course of a full episode, and it still doesn't end, and it ends with a cliffhanger, and I'm just like... how is Luffy gonna beat Kuro? How is he gonna beat this guy? This guy's so fast. Like, Luffy's so fucked. Like, in my mind, Luffy's ability is just stretching. I didn't realize at that point that he's also physically really, really strong. And he's just such a silly character. It's just so fucking cool as a kid to be watching, like, even the Kuro fight. I don't know. Like, I have fond memories of the battle against the Black Cat Pirates because, like, I'm tuning in here and there. I'm catching some episodes over the course of it. So, like, I'm leaving on a big cliffhanger, then maybe I miss the next episode, and then I get to the next episode, and I'm like, okay, cool, so Zoro was able to get back his sword somehow and defeat these guys, but now how's Luffy going to beat this guy, Kuro, who's so fast? It's just cool. Anyway, continuing on. Yeah, the Black Cat Pirates, despite coming so much earlier, would legitimately wash Wapol and his army. They would wash him. God's Army versus the Creed Pirate. I wonder if the live action is going to make the Wapol group stronger. It might actually have... My guess is that to make it a good climax for the season 2 of the live action, my guess is that Wapol is going to eat that armory. Because what's interesting is that... So, like, you know the armory? I think what's interesting is that, like, it's hinted that Wapol with the armory eaten is legitimately pretty strong. Because, let me see if I can find this. Let's see. Yeah, look. So, here we go. Where's Wapol talking about the armory? There's a point that he... Yeah. See this? If Wapol says that if he eats the armory or whatever, he becomes very powerful, right? There's a version of Wapol that we see that supposedly defeated Dalton in the past, right? Throughout this arc, it is implied that Dalton is far above, like, Chess, Marimo, and stuff like that. And what's interesting is that when Dalton and Wapol interact at the Reverie, right, way in the future, it's implied that Dalton can kick Wapol's ass, right? But we are shown that in the past, Wapol actually defeated Dalton, and Wapol is in a form that we otherwise don't see him in. I believe that it is this form that we just don't see him in. Oda found it funnier as a gag. He didn't want to make Drum Kingdom too serious in terms of, like, actual challenge for Luffy, because Luffy's challenge is waiting for him in Alabasta with Crocodile. I think that, Oda just introduced this concept of, like, Wapol theoretically being pretty strong. Like, not crazy strong, but pretty strong. Strong enough to beat, like, a character like Dalton, who is in Drum Kingdom. Dalton is not made out to look like a pushover. He's actually made out to be fairly strong in Drum Kingdom. Like, clearly above Chopper. And, like, some of the things he does in Drum Kingdom are, like, low-key pretty impressive. Like, he's leaving after in images and stuff like that, basically. But, and it's established in Reverie that Dalton can beat regular Wapol. The same way that Luffy can beat regular Wapol, Dalton can also beat regular Wapol. It's this version of Wapol that Dalton lost to. So there is a stronger version of Wapol out there. Oda just found it funnier as a gag to not have that for Drum Kingdom and just have Luffy beat Wapol very easily. My prediction is that for the live action, it won't go like that. I think for the live action, just to give Season 2 a good finale, I think Wapol is going to eat his armory, and we will see a stronger version of Wapol. Luffy will still kick his ass, but it's not going to be a joke like it was in Drum Kingdom. Anyway, continuing on. God's Army versus Creed Pirates. Raj, thanks a lot. When will Zoro get his character arc? I think that there is a solid... I genuinely feel that there are signs in Elbaf, because we're in the final saga, right? We're in the final saga. So there should be good character writing for all the Strats across the board. We didn't get that in Egghead, but it seemed like that's because Egghead was supposed to be a very side character focused arc. I think there's solid signs so far in Elbaf that Oda is shaping this one to be very Straw Hat centric. Very Straw Hat centric. I think that there are legitimately probably storyline set up for the Straw Hats in Elbaf. I'm not saying each one of them, like, I don't know if Brook's going to get some crazy character arc, but I think something in here, there is potential for Zoro. Especially considering it's an island with, like, warrior culture, pride, honor, stuff like that. Funnily enough, if you go back to Little Garden, people forget this because other things were happening in Little Garden. But Zoro did connect with Dory and Brogy over, like, pride and honor as a warrior, because Zoro was ready to cut off his own legs to fight, and he encouraged the giants to do the same, you know? And they had some communication about that. It's just like, oh, Zoro also embodies, like, Elbaf's sort of warrior spirit. That was, like, a nice little connection moment in Little Garden book. Speaking of Elbaf, you can pick up these posters at the Morj store. This is a tight one. Looks like God's Army is winning. God's Army is better than the Krieg Pirates. Although Krieg Pirates had Jin. It's just that the other Krieg Pirates are such ass. I think NL is clearly a better villain than Krieg. Neither of them are great villains to me, but clearly better than Krieg. And I think Jin is just such a cool character is the tricky thing. Pearl sucks, and the rest of Krieg's pirates are like already defeated by Mihawk when we meet them. Lewis Buchanan says, what would happen if Wapol ate Pluton? He would be legitimately... everyone would still be able to fuck him up because he's like speed. You could just like blitz him, I suppose. But he would be the ultimate glass cannon. Like the most powerful glass cannon of all glass cannons. Mara Ronaldo says Zoro will naturally get great character work in Elbaf because it is a Luffy-centric arc. I mean, there's an argument for that. I don't know I think that Zoro's biggest character development stuff will come when it's time for him to face Mihawk again. But I imagine Elbaf will be pretty big for him too. I just feel like Elbaf is set up in a way that there's potentially something for most every Straw Hat. I still don't know exactly what there'd be for Jinbei or Brook, but I think there's clear traces of what could be there for most everyone else. Maybe Chopper might still be tricky for me to see a clear route to. Buggy Pirates makes sense. Big Mom Pirates and CP9. This comes down to how you interpret the question. And this is also why I didn't want to put Big Mom Pirates in this discussion, because the Big Mom Pirates, to me, are a phenomenal villain group in a very different way than the rest are. They ultimately weren't a villain group for the Straw Hats to defeat. That's the thing. That's why I didn't really want to include them, because they weren't a villain group that the Straw Hats defeated. They were never written as a villain group that the Straw Hats, like, just take on head on and take down. Really. Like, there is a lot more nuance and shit like that to the Big Mom Pirates. CP9 on the flip side is like the perfect group of characters for the Straw Hats to like beat, you know, just like straight up head on matchups. To me, CP9 still has the best roster across the board of Straw Hat fights. Like fights at the very least, right? Like I'm not saying the best villain group, that's for it to be debated over time, but in terms of fights, looks like CP9's edging it. Big Mom Pirates versus New Fisherman Pirates. I imagine Big Mom Pirates clear because New Fisherman Pirates suck, so I'm not going to really do that. Fisherman Pirates, hour-long version versus New Fisherman Pirates. Alex Lincoln 2 says, Big Mom Pirates were an environmental hazard, not a group per se. Yeah, honestly, it kind of feels like that. Like, they just fall into a different category for me, personally. I find them hard to compare to the others. The others just all follow a very similar structure. Luffy's defeating the boss. The Straw Hats are defeating the rest. That's basically just the way it goes. Arlong Pirates. New Fisherman Pirates. Yeah, even Spandam was a good villain in CP9. Like, for the role that he played. You know, like, Spandam was... I think Spandam is probably my most hated... Like, he's the most hateable character in One Piece to me, still to date. Alright, looks like Arlong Pirates are taking it. Baroque Works versus Beast Pirates. Okay, we got a heavy hitter matchup here. Heavy hitter matchup. Heavy hitter matchup. I know where I lean. Yeah, I personally lean Baroque Works. I personally lean Baroque Works just because we spent so much more time with Baroque Works over time. I think the Beast Pirates have some gems, but then you've also... I think, like, The tricky thing with the Beast Pirates is that, like, with Baroque Works, there was just so much time that even a lot of the lower end Baroque Works members, like Mr. Five, Miss Valentine, like the fucking Whiskey Peak gang, like it's still like even down to like Miss Monday and Mr. Nine and shit. Like there's fun stuff there, you know. They have personality, flavor from top to bottom, and then the tricky thing is that I don't think that there's any throwaway Baroque Works members towards the top. Like Ohm is really cool, but then even like Mr. Four and Miss Merry Christmas are fun to follow, right? Like if you compare to like Sasaki, there's just not that much personality there for Sasaki versus like Mr. Four and Miss Merry Christmas. Like they're still a fun group to follow even though they're like lower down the end. Then you got Bon Clay, who's obviously like phenomenal character even before, like in the context of the Alabasta arc itself. Even before we got to Impel Down stuff, he's a phenomenal character. Crocodile Kaido, whichever you consider a better villain, is your perspective. Ohm King, I personally prefer Ohm, but if you prefer King, I think Mr. 2 is definitely better than Queen, although Queen is pretty great. Who would you count as next? If you count Nico Robin, if you count Miss All Sunday for Baroque Works, then it's kind of a wrap, right? Then it's basically unfair. Do you count Miss All Sunday? Then it's just unfair. Because she was just like one of the most interesting parts of the arc within... she was maybe the most interesting member of Baroque Works during the Alabasta arc itself. Oh, not Ohm. Sorry. I don't know why I'm mixing that up. Mr. One. Daz Bones. The thing is that she wasn't, like... Nico Robin wasn't really part of the organization by the end. She was like a double agent. Or not a double... She betrayed them in the end, right? So it's kind of like, do I count X-Drake then for the Beast Pirates? Do you count Kyoshiro for the Beast Pirates? Right? So I don't know about that. Yeah, like Mr. 3 is just like Jack is more intimidating as a villain, but Mr. 3 is more like maybe a little bit more memorable as a villain. They both got a whole arc as a villain, but I think Mr. 3 was a bit more memorable over the course of Little Garden. So I would argue Baroque Works were a better villain group than... Yeah, the Beast Pirates just didn't get a lot of time. I think there's a lot of potential. Like, I think Who's a really cool character. Like, Who's cool as fuck. I think Black Maria is cooler than Miss Doublefinger. I don't think Black Maria was cooler than Miss All Sunday. So again, if you count Miss All Sunday or not, that really skews things. Okay, well then you guys count Kyoshiro? Because I don't count Kyoshiro. Thriller Bark Pirates versus Beast Pirates, I think should be pretty straightforward, right? Any Mister is more memorable than Jack. The problem is that Jack was so cool initially. Like, initially, it was so cool just, like, he had so much like, he had some of the most badass lines just straight up. Like, of course, like, just in his introduction, it's like, dude, they've got, like, the fucking former fleet admiral and an admiral on board carrying Doflamingo. Are we going after him? And he's just like, are you an idiot? Of course we are. Like, his presence during the Zoe flashback and just, like, his brutality... Jack was just... If the Beast Pirates kind of lived up as a whole to the initial concept that Jack was giving off, which was just like the initial idea that like, holy shit, this guy is the number 3 subordinate of the Beast Pirates. And this guy is that fucking badass, that intense, that intimidating. He has like... Jack himself had final boss energy, right? Like he had final boss... Like there was a point during Zoe that people were thinking that, okay, Luffy's going to fight Jack next. And it was like, damn, this could one-up Doflamingo. Like, people were fucking excited about Jack. If the Beast Pirates had lived up to that concept of, like, King and Queen like Jack just sort of setting the precedent that like even just the third guy in the Beast Pirates is that intimidating, then the Beast Pirates would have been, without a doubt, the best villain group in One Piece, without a doubt. The problem is that what really happened is that Oda kind of just turned things down like several notches with Jack, and like once we had Jack in Wano, Jack was kind of just a bum who got shat on a lot. Like from Act 1, it's like, okay, he didn't lose to Ashura Doji, but like he was used as a hype tool for Ashura Doji, and then like after that, King and Queen are calling him a bum, and then after that, Jack's getting fucked up by tag team Inuarashi Nekomamushi. And then after that, Jack is sent downstairs and he gets fucked up by Inuarashi again. It's just like he has none of his personality, none of his presence, none of his aura, none of his intimidation. He's just beaten up a lot on the side, or kind of what it's weird what happens with Jack. Anyway, like there was a point that if you were like, oh, Mr. 3 will be a more memorable third number than Jack, I would have been like, what the fuck are you talking about? Mr. 3? Jack's this badass, like, mini Kaido. And now I'm just like, what the fuck no. Beast Pirates make sense. Black Cat Pirates versus the Donquixote Family. I think pretty straightforward, right? Oh, Black Cat Pirates versus Foxy Pirates. I still think I know the winner is pretty clear, but it's worth doing a poll. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Let's get the stream likes up to 150. Samuel Victor says, I think the best decision was to kill Jack and Zoe and replace him with the Tobiropo. Honestly, that's not a bad idea. Like, that's... Because then you maintain the idea of how badass Jack was. And, yeah, and then it makes a more interesting little storyline for the Tobiropo. One of the things I was most disappointed with was just that Oda introduced that cool dynamic initially with the Beast Pirates of just like, okay, we'll have this sort of like challenge game where first person to find Yamato, like there's internal conflict in like who's placed in the hierarchy. So we'll have this challenge of who can retrieve Yamato. The winner of that will get a chance to challenge for a Calamity spot. Like, it was just weird that was like a thing that was even thrown out that then doesn't go anywhere at all, right? To me. Yeah, I personally prefer the Foxy Pirates. They are fun. They are fun. The Foxy Pirates are kind of like a silly group that if they had come a little bit earlier in the Straw Hats' journey, would have been a significant issue. Like, they are a bigger problem than any of the East Blue groups that the Straw Hats faced. They were like, the Foxy Pirates really punched above their weight, though, in terms of how much trouble they gave the Straw Hats. Like, the Straw Hats just took out a Shichibukai, you know? But the Foxy Pirates were still, like, that was cool because the Foxy Pirates were, like, the underdogs in that scenario. Like, Luffy's 100 million berry man at that point in time, right? Zoro, the vice captain, has a 60 million berry bounty at that point in time. They've just defeated a Shichibukai. Their name is becoming fairly notorious. And like the Foxy Pirates were like, we don't give a fuck. We think we got a shot at you guys. We think we could get some of you guys onto our crew. Wait, what? Did I make Foxy lose? The Foxy Pirates won, right? I thought I... Did I incorrectly click something? Brim, thanks for the 2. Is this based on memorability or how well written? I think it's up to you. It's both. Because like I've seen some people argue that Hordy is phenomenally well written, and it's like, okay, if you want to argue that, I think Hordy is a fairly basic concept, but people are just like excited that they just feel excited to say that he has a concept behind him, and so they overrate him. But if you want to say, okay, well, you think Hordy's really well written, it's like, cool. But I would still take the fucking Foxy Pirates as more fun, memorable, enjoyable villains than than the brilliantly written Hordy Jones, right? So it's however you interpret it. Bingle the Oop. Sorry, I missed this. Thanks for being a Yonko tier member for so long. For 28 months, man. Jin solos. Yeah, Jin's a phenomenal character. Jin is a phenomenal character. I was kind of sad to see Jin again on Hachinosu because it basically means that there's not that much. He's not going to be significant, you know? He's just like a random whatever. CP9, no pole needed, I imagine. As Oof says. Big Mom Pirates versus God's Army. I imagine you guys are going to vote Big Mom Pirates, but let's just see. Witherslayer says good concept does not automatically make it well written, lol. Yeah, I agree. I think it's just better villains at the end of the day. Like, sometimes you can have villains that don't have that much. Like, I don't think Frieza's a well-written villain, but Frieza's a really fucking cool villain at the end of the day. You know? That's, you know, I don't think Cell's like a well-written villain, but like, these are iconic, memorable villains at the end of the day, you know? Alright. Big Mom Pirates, here we go. Fishman Pirates, Arlong. This is a good one. I think this is a good one. Thanks for deleting the spam, Ender. Better group. Arlong Pirates, God's Army. Oh, no. Maybe not as close as I thought it might be. Alright, people do not fuck with NL's group at all. That's fair. I think it's one of the few groups. I think that you could just say this about NL, right? It's one of the few groups where, like, you can consistently, like, if you asked anyone who's not the most hard, like, I think there's a lot of One Piece fans where if you quiz them, they would not remember the names of NL's group, right? Of NL's subordinates, right? I think there's a lot of people, of One Piece fans, who off the top of their head could not name you all 4 priests. That's not the case with most other, and there's only 4, so it shouldn't be that hard to remember. I think with most other iconic One Piece villain groups, Baroque Works is kind of a cop-out because, like, they're all numbers, Mr. 1, Mr. 2, Mr. 3, blah, blah, blah. But, like, you know, CP9, people are going to remember pretty much all CP9 agents. Maybe you might forget Fukuro or Kumadori if you're a bit more casual. But, like, everyone's going to remember fucking Bluno, Taku, Jabura, etc. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just not memorable. And I think that's kind of like a way you could look at the new Fishman Pirates also. I would say the new... If I had to close my eyes, right? For all of these groups, right? Like, Buggy's group. Buggy, Kabaji, Moji, Richie, right? Kuro, Django, Sham, Bucci, right? Krieg, Jin, Pearl, Arlong, Chu, Kurubi, Hachi, Momu, Wapple, Chess, Kuro Marimo. What's next? Baroque Works. Baroque Works is obvious, right? Crocodile, then the numbers. Numbers speak for themselves. Miss All Sunday, Miss Double Finger, Miss Merry Christmas, Miss Golden Week. Pretty straightforward, right? Miss Monday, yada, yada, yada. NL's Priest, obviously. NL, Om, Shura, Satori, Gadatsu, Yama. Right, pretty straightforward. CP9, easy. Lucci, Kaku, Jabra. Bluno, Kumadori, Fukuro, Khalifa, Spandam, Nero, right? Its own Thriller Bark, obviously, Moria, Absalom, Hogback. I guess you could count. Do you count the zombies like Ryuma, Sindri, all of them? I don't know. Perona, Absalom, Hogback, yada yada, right? Oars, whatever, right? It's only when I get to the new Fishman Pirates. When I get to the new Fishman Pirates, I don't think I could name most of them off the top. I think I would genuinely struggle. Hordy, Vanderdecken if you count him, Hyozo. Hyozo was a mercenary too. He wasn't even really part of the group. I don't want to look at chat. Let me see. There's a guy named Dosun, or he says Dosun a lot. I really don't fucking know. Ikalgo, or the guy with the spears. There's the guy that wasn't technically part of the Fisherman Pirates, but the guy that Robin beat, who is like a catcher, like he shot nets and stuff. I don't remember the name of the thing that Usopp beat. I don't remember the name of the thing that Brook beat. I think it began with a Z. It's just the new Fisherman Pirates. I don't remember them. Donquixote Family, easy. Virgo, Pika, Treble, Diamante, Monet, Baby 5, Buffalo, Laoji, Gladius, Senor Pink. Maybe I'm missing some characters in something. Jola, whatever, right? Like, it pretty much speaks for itself. Beast Pirates, obviously easy. We just went through them. It's literally just the new Fisherman Pirates. I don't remember them. Zio. Ikaros. Ikalgo is a Chimerant. There we go. Yeah, I think that's my simplest way I can say it. Ikaros Muchi is such a tough name, says Meek. Yeah, I just don't remember the new Fisherman Pirates. Maybe some of you guys would be able to name them all off the top of your head, but I don't remember the names of the new Fisherman Pirates. I think, similarly speaking, I think a lot of people would have difficulty remembering the names of some of Enel's priests. At least one. Sugar, sure. Dellinger, sure. But that's not because I couldn't remember their names. I just fucking wasn't thinking through all of Donquixote Family's family. You know what I mean? I'm saying, like, the new Fisherman Pirates, you could have the characters in front of me, and I might not be able to remember their names. Meek, thanks for the 2 favorite character names in the series. Don Quixote Doflamingo is probably the coolest one. Just straight up. Don Quixote Doflamingo, Dracula Mihawk, Kaido to me is... No, Kaido I don't think I thought was a cool name until I saw the design. So it's not quite the same. I think Gold Roger is a really cool name. I think Gold Roger is just... It's a pirate name. That's just a few. I think Oda's got like a lot of really cool names. And I think one of the things that One Piece kind of has going for it, which is a kind of a random thing... This is a very subjective thing, right? But I'm American. I'm an English speaker, right? I appreciate the fact that, like, pretty much all One Piece names are names that come from, like, an English origin in a sense, like Don Quixote Doflamingo, Bartholomew Kuma. Like, it's drawing on lots of English names, like Zoro, even Sanji, which isn't English, but it's, like, it's not Japanese names necessarily, which it's a silly thing to say, but it just makes it a little bit easier for me to, like, because I'm an English speaker, right? This is just, I happen to be an English speaker. So for me, One Piece character names are just more intrinsically memorable and iconic. And like name to face stuff is more intrinsically memorable and iconic for me because he's got a lot of very grand English names like a Don Quixote Doflamingo, right? Kuma is obviously bear in Japanese, but like the name itself sounds Americanized to me. Bartholomew Kuma, the name Bartholomew, like that's a strong American, or like not American, that's a strong English name, right? So it's a little bit silly, but it makes it easier for me to remember than like a lot of names from Naruto. It makes it also so I can more easily remember like a lot of more One Piece niche side characters than something like a Jujutsu Kaisen. It's just, I don't know. That's it. More European, whatever. Anyway. Yeah, Wadatsumi, like Silver's Rayleigh, stuff like that. Yeah, it's not a better or worse thing, obviously, right? If we were Japanese, maybe we would be talking about how the One Piece names are fucking difficult to remember, right? But I'm just saying that it makes it a little bit easier for me. Better group, Arlong Pirates is winning this. New Fisherman Pirates versus God's Army. I do think Oda has a good talent for names, but I think we're also a bit skewed because we're all generally English speakers. So, you know, like maybe a lot of Jujutsu Kaisen names are like, Naruto names are like, maybe Japanese fans are like, damn, that's a fucking good ass name. And for us, it's just like, I don't pronounce that so good, you know? God's Army. Makes sense. Buggy Pirates versus New Fisherman Pirates. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Kindbest says some Wano names were tough to remember. That's actually a very, very good point. That's a really good point. I did not think about that, but like, yeah. That is like a small little extra thing. Like, I'm not going to forget fucking Loki, Colin, Gerd, Ripley. But Wano, I think especially, like, I don't remember the daimyo's names. I mean, I remember Yasue, obviously, but, like, sorry, the mafia heads under Hyogoro and stuff like that. It's small. Like, you're reading so many chapters of it, so you do remember the names as time goes on. But, you know, I'm pretty sure that there's, like, if I were to quiz some One Piece fans, then a lot of them wouldn't be able to name certain scabbards or something like that, you know? Buggy Pirates, easy. Krieg Pirates versus New Fisherman Pirates. Fukurokuju. A lot of people were forgetting, like, not really knowing Fukurokuju. Or, like, people were still getting the name wrong towards the end of the arc as well, even though it was one of the final fights still going. Yep, Krieg Pirates. Okay, people do not fuck with the New Fisherman Pirates. All right, here we got a good one. We got a good one, y'all. We got a good one. Here we go. Here we go. All right, everyone vote. This is fucking tight. Y'all get your votes in. This might be the tightest one so far. So far, Baroque Works is winning. But I'll give it a second. I'm not going to share what I lean till afterwards because it feels a little bit unfair. All right, I'll give it 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Baroque Works takes it. I would personally also take Baroque Works. But it's tight. It's tight largely because I just think that I feel like it's a bit of a, like, Donquixote Family. One part of the bias is just, or part of the trickiness is just that you get better fights out of the Baroque Works group, right? Like, a lot of the Straw Hats, like, most intense fights in the story were against the Baroque Works group, right? So you get, like, you know, and a lot of them were like 2-3 chapter long fights straight, like Zoro versus Mr. 1, Usopp Chopper versus Mr. 4 duo, Sanji versus Mr. 2, Nami versus Miss Doublefinger. Like, they all got fights that were very extensive, right? Crocodile and Doflamingo, that's a wash in terms of villains. A lot of people would prefer Doflamingo, but it's not like Crocodile was like far behind. I think most people wouldn't say. Like, a lot of people still love, like, let's say that's whatever. I think the tricky thing for me is that when I'm really looking at it, it's not just that the Straw Hats got better fights and therefore more of a showcase for the Donquixote family members. The Donquixote family members, I think, from top to bottom, like, they're a really cool, eclectic group, and you gotta account for the vibe. The vibe is really cool. The family vibe there is really, really cool. I love that. It's more of a family vibe than the Big Mom Pirates, you might even say. It's different. It's different. It's like it truly feels like a crime family vibe, right? So the vibe is really cool. And, like, from top to bottom, I think they're cool designs, all of that. The tricky thing is, I think Baroque Works, I think if you go further down in the Baroque Works numbers, you get to, like, some lame stuff. But I would say that, like, just looking at the top, like, Doflamingo's 4 seats, Virgo was cool. Really cool, obviously. But then Pika, Diamante, and Treble, you know, it's not the same as fucking, like Mr. 1 was awesome, but then Mr. 2 is also a really cool character. And then, like, Mr. 3, while not being as cool as Mr. 1 and Mr. 2, I think you'd still say Mr. 3 wasn't as shitty as, like, Treble. Like, Mr. 3 was still cool. And Mr. 3 and Treble are honestly, like, pretty similar ability-wise, and even design-wise a little bit, right? Like, Miss All Sunday, if we agreed that we count her, then again, I think that hard skews things over to Baroque Works. But even if we don't, you know, Miss Doublefinger was cool. Miss Doublefinger was badass. Mr. 4 and Miss Merry Christmas, like, I think those are characters that I vibe with a bit more than, like, Pika, Diamante, Treble. But then at the same time, you got Senor Pink. Oh, shit. I fucking forgot about Senor Pink, man. Senor Pink is better than Mr. 2. Not in the grand scheme of the story. I think over the course of the story, like Impel Down included and everything like that, Mr. 2 is a better character. But if I were to have read just the Alabasta arc, just the storyline where Mr. 2 is a villain, right? If I were to just read, like, the Baroque Works storyline with Mr. 2 as a villain, and just read Dressrosa with Senor Pink as a villain, I'd be like, Senor Pink is even better as a character than Mr. 2. I think Mr. 2 really takes off as a character. I think at the end of Alabasta, he's, like, a cool character. Like, damn, that wacky, zany, weirdo Okama, he actually turned out to be a really solid guy, even if it seems kind of funny and silly. Like, you like him. Whereas Senor Pink, you finish Senor Pink's backstory in Dressrosa, and you're just like, holy shit, did we just read one of the all-time best One Piece characters? Mr. 2's character totally takes off when he does the whole thing again, but in an even more, like, developed and serious way, and, like, much more time focused and, like, whatever, in Impel Down. That's when Mr. 2 really takes off as a character. Shit, Senor Pink is a hard... I think that's the thing that's interesting to me about Baroque Works, is that I think Baroque Works from top to bottom, it's got a lot of gems. Like, Gladius as, like, a number 5 or 6 strongest guy in Don Quixote Family, he's still got a cool vibe. Like, compare him to fucking Mr. 5, Gladius every day, way cooler character. Lao G, surprisingly very funny and surprisingly very strong. Monet, very, very interesting character. Senor Pink hard skews things. You've got some duds like Machvis, but then Dellinger, who has very little screen time, is a really cool little character concept as, like, again, one of the more bottom of the barrel characters on the Don Quixote Family side. Baby 5, you could argue, I think her arc is a little silly, but she does have an arc. Buffalo's a throwaway character. Yeah, I think Don Quixote Family, I'd say it has actually the coolest set, I would say, of, like, below its... That's where the Don Quixote Family really shines, I think. It has the coolest set of the second level of guys, you know? Not the seats. Out of the seats, I think that's the problem. Out of the seats, it's just Virgo that's cool, right? But the second level guys, it's like, this group is cool. This group is really, really robust. That's why it's hard to rate the Don Quixote Family. It's almost to a point that some characters like Lao G and Gladius, even just in terms of straight combat, they almost seemed more impressive than, like, a Treble or a Diamante. I know that strength-wise, we're supposed to understand that the seats are a level above them, but it felt like, to me at points, like, I was like, are we sure that Treble's supposed to be, you know, stronger than Lao G or Gladius? I don't know. It was just like a thought. Like, don't want to get into too much scaling or whatever, but it didn't feel like Treble was like a whole level above those guys or whatever. Anyway, yeah, I think the Don Quixote Family I think because the seats are so disappointing to me personally, outside of Virgo, of course, it doesn't help like the strongest seat that was in Dressrosa, which was Pika, was essentially treated like a low diff challenge for Zoro, like a warm-up match for Zoro. Like, oh no, he made Zoro use hockey for the first time. Zoro's biggest difficulty was just, like, finding Pika to where to cut him, you know? That doesn't help. Yeah, but the second level the second unit guys of the Donquixote family are phenomenal. So I think it's really, I could see an argument for the Donquixote family. Anuj Agrawal, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 29 months. With God's Knights going after giant children, will Usopp have to stop them? Will his failure be the start of his arc, or that too similar to Water 7? Water 7 will always be unique because it really fucking sent Usopp into like a personal spiral. I don't think that led to him like straight up feeling like he doesn't belong with the crew. I don't think Usopp will ever feel like that again, but I think we could see him like questioning his dream and sense of like, can he ever be the ideal that he wants to achieve? I think that hardship and challenge and Usopp going through that would be good for him this arc for sure. Failing to save the kids would be a good route towards that. But some other people also mentioned that what's interesting is that Usopp's reached this island that's filled with his idealized versions of what a warrior should be, and even then he how do I say this? He's realizing that even in this nation of his idealized vision of warriors, they're no longer the warriors that he kind of fantasized about, if that makes sense. So it's kind of just like, maybe somebody mentioned in the stream earlier, like maybe Usopp's arc is actually supposed to be like Usopp showing the giants of Elbaf how to be brave warriors of the sea again. So maybe it doesn't start with a failure. I think starting with a failure would be good, but I also like the idea of like Usopp just having to question what is his ideal of a brave warrior. Like, why is he chasing it? Are even the giants of Elbaf that ideal? You know? JWP, thanks for the 5. Treble and Diamante are so whack, LMFAO. Diamante was the least threatening person ever. It was just comical because it was like, Diamante was this champion of the Colosseum is how he's introduced. So it's kind of like, okay, damn. So he's like the big bad final boss of this this little mini Colosseum tournament arc. And then you're getting there and it's just like, dude, fucking like Luffy's in this tournament. Jesus Burgess is in this tournament. Okay, now fucking Sabo is swapping into this tournament. And so I was curious. I was like, how does Diamante like stack up to these guys? Like, how's Diamante going to do against them? And Oda is so aware that Diamante is just not even on their level whatsoever that he has Diamante on the side, like, bullying Rebecca instead of being involved. Like, Diamante, I think he takes one swing at Sabo and Sabo breaks his sword or something like that. And that's the end of Diamante. Diamante does not interact with Sabo or Burgess for the rest of that fight. There's just nothing that, like... You get the sense that... I know Virgo is obviously not on their level, but if Virgo is there, he would at least be, like, involved, I think. Like, you know? Like, obviously Sabo would wreck him, right? And even Burgess, I think, would wreck him. But it's just like he would be involved. He'd be in there, right? It's just like... It just felt like a joke that Diamante was even in that arena. It felt like Diamante, Bartolomeo, and Rebecca should have just been in their own space, and then Sabo and Burgess be fighting. It made no sense to even treat it like some crazy battle royale going on. And then Treble was even weaker. Okay, continuing on. Donquixote Family versus Beast Pirates. We got another good-ass matchup. Diamante gets splashed with water is incapacitated, LMAO. Are you talking about when Sabo breaks the ring? I view this as the reverse. I mean, so, okay, right off the bat, Doflamingo versus Kaido. I consider Doflamingo to be the better villain. I think the Calamities are cooler than the Seats by a good shot. I think that, the second group, which is the below seat officers of the Donquixote Pirates are significantly better than the Toby Roppo. So, it's how you stack it at the end of the day. Like, at the end of the day, we can make fun of Jack all we want. He's not Treble or Diamante, you know? He's still fucked up. Like, he was still an intimidating villain for all of Zoe. But then at the same time, I think the Donquixote family's got... Like, I still think Jack is better than Pika. Like, Jack, who's the worst of the Calamities, is still a cooler villain than Pika, Diamante, or Treble, to me. So it's kind of how you value Doflamingo versus Kaido, and how you value like the second unit of Don Quixote's family, those officers versus the Tobiropo. That's basically what it comes down to. Raj says, "Are you tired of Wano analysis jokes?" So of course I am, but at the same time, it keeps me honest. It keeps me honest in the sense that like it's not something that I can just not do. I have to finish it at some point because it's just like. It just has to be done at some point, basically, you know? I'll let this go on for a little bit longer. I'll close it up, say 15 seconds. Mr. Nine says Kaido's crew didn't get enough characterization. Yeah, that's ultimately the problem. They just didn't get enough time. Because we're meeting all of them. We had a lot of time with Queen and Jack, but the Jack that we actually got later on was totally different from the Jack we were introduced to. Queen, we got time with an Udon. And then the rest of the crew, pretty much all the time that we got with them was in Onigashima. Like, once the battle itself started was when we got to see the Beast Pirates. Like, pretty much as the battle launched. Which is just tricky because there's also so many other things going on that, like, we don't get much time for, like, page 1 characterization. We don't get any time for Sasaki characterization, you know? Alright. We'll go with the Don Quixote family. I think there's a solid argument either way. Foxy Pirates versus Beast Pirates. I assume we're going Beast Pirates. Thriller Bark Pirates versus Foxy Pirates. Let's see. Yeah, that's the thing about Don Quixote's Doflamingo's crew. His crew was great, except for the parts that it's the 3 seats that really bring it down. Virgo was great. Virgo, I think, was a phenomenal right hand. Like, Virgo was a fucking menace throughout Punk Hazard until Law finally put him down. Like, Virgo was a menace in Punk Hazard. He had tremendous aura in Punk Hazard. It's just, yeah, at the end of the day, you get to Dressrosa, and it's like all these the second unit guys, the officers are so cool. Not all of them, but like a lot of them are so cool, and they're so zany and vibrant, but then it's just the seats. The seats suck. And you know why the seats had to suck? The seats had to suck... No, I guess the seats had to suck just because Oda shipped off half the crew. He shipped off half the Straw Hats. So if you're shipping off half the Straw Hats, then, like, you can't have, like... You need to make the remaining guys somewhat beatable. No, but because the remaining guys went to fucking... That's not even true. Because, like, Treble was just there for the Law to beat him. Diamante was just there for Kiros to beat him. Pika, Oda could have made a stronger challenge for Zoro, but Oda wanted to flex with Zoro instead. So it's just like, I don't know. Akash Pen says, Morj, have you considered Fortrix? I forgot. I didn't consider the gifters. I should have forgot. Loki, if I considered the gifters, would actually bring down the Beast Pirates overall average, so I'm just kind of, out of courtesy, leaving them out. Thriller Bark Pirates. All right, we're getting there. Baroque Works versus CP9. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. This is a big one. This is a big one. Baroque Works versus CP9. Highly anticipated. The point was that he lost his crew in Wano, says Dylon. Yeah, I agree. Mori didn't really have a crew afterwards. The thing with the Thriller Bark Pirates are never going to be considered that great as a group because the main fight was against Oars, right? So you almost couldn't have particularly challenging matchups for the Straw Hats beforehand because the main attraction is actually them versus Oars, the group fight. So like Sanji steamrolls Absalom. Hogback is just a dude. He had zombies to protect him, but like once you get past them, he was just a dude guarded by a woman who threw plates. Zoro versus Ryuma was a cool fight, but Zoro only had 2 swords, and it was a fight that went by very fast, like in a single chapter. Usopp versus Perona was the only really, really good fight out of them. And that's because Usopp needed a makeup fight because he didn't get one in Water 7 Enies Lobby. So it's just like one really good opponent, and then beyond that, the highlight is Oars himself, right? Even Luffy versus Gekko Moria wasn't really the highlight. The highlight was overall defeating Oars. All right, CP9 takes it. All right. CP9 has not really been challenged so far. Okay, Baroque Works versus Big Mom Pirates. This will be a tight one then. I imagine. Kosh Panda says the zombies were fucking hilarious, though. The zombies were very, very funny. Especially Luffy's early scenes with the zombies, like, pushing him back in. He was like, why the fuck would I go back in? Oh, an old man with a wound. Baroque Works... Thriller Bark had so many good gag moments. So many funny running gags. I like what you're saying, Taptio. CP9 felt like enemies built for the Straw Hats. I did really, really enjoy that. It just felt like enemies tailor-made to be beaten by each Straw Hat member. Like, the concept of the fight was well thought out for each one of them. Every single the concept of each fight for CP9 was very, very well thought out so that each Straw Hat got to shine in exactly the way they needed to shine. All right, so Big Mom Pirates, I'm going to give it 10 seconds because it's very tight. I'll give it 15 seconds because it's very tight. It's actually straight up tied right now. Nope. Big Mom Pirates are edging ahead. I'll give it 15 seconds, all right? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're closing it out. The Big Mom Pirates take it just over Baroque Works. I imagine Baroque Works is better than this. Donquixote Family versus Fisherman Pirates. I imagine Donquixote Family better than this, right? I'll just do a quick poll just to see. But I imagine not close. Dylan A with a great question. Morj, can you explain the Luca trade in One Piece terms? I think the best example is if the Whitebeard Pirates traded Ace as he was at Marineford, right? If they traded Ace to... I don't even fucking know. If they traded Ace to the red-haired pirates for, like, Lucky Roo. I guess? Yeah. Yeah, something like that. Something like that. It's just... It's hard to explain in One Piece terms because, like, you wouldn't normally trade your... No, I guess in One Piece terms, it would... No. I'm actually being fucking stupid. In One Piece terms, the Luca trade is like this. In One Piece terms, here's what the Luca trade is. It would be like trading Luffy right now. It would be like trading Luffy right now to the red-haired pirates for Ben Beckman. That's what it would be like. It would be like trading Luffy right now to the red-haired pirates for Ben Beckman. Something like that, okay? Because I don't even know I was going with, like, Luca. Hey, Harley. No. Yeah, it would be like trading Luffy. It would be like if the Straw Hat Pirates, the Dallas Mavericks, trade their centerpiece, their star, their team leader, a top 4 or 5 player in the NBA, top 3 player in the NBA, really. They traded Luffy, up and coming already top 3, top 4 pirate in existence, right? With potential to be number 1, who's still growing, the youngest out of all of the best players, right? If they just traded him to some other team that is also... Like, if they just traded him to some other team for that team's second best player. That is what it is like. And now Luffy's playing with Shanks. Luca's playing with LeBron. That's the way it is. And look, Ben Beckman's great. Anthony Davis is a great player. He's not fucking Luffy, like Yonko Luffy, Gear 5th Yonko Luffy in his prime right now or coming into his prime. That's what it's like. That's literally what it's like. It's literally... No, it's Egghead Luffy. It's not even pre-Egghead Luffy. It's Egghead Luffy. Luffy as he is right now. Luffy as he is right now, you would say, is like, in NBA terms, he is like a Luka Doncic. He's like, most people wouldn't say he's like number 1 at this moment in time, but he's close, and he likely could be number one pretty soon, right? He's not the number one pirate in the world, strength-wise most likely right now, but he's close, and he likely should be soon, right? That's it. That's what Luca is, right? Whether or not Luca becomes the best player in the world, we don't know. But like, it's kind of the same way you don't know if Luffy will be the best player in the world or strongest in the world from a in-universe perspective, out-of-story perspective, we know. But you get what I'm saying. It's like taking Luffy, coming into his own, with potential to potentially become the strongest pirate in the world, take him off of the crew that he is the centerpiece and the star of and the leader of, trade him to some other crew for like their number 2 guy. That's basically it. That's basically it. Yeah, like trading Luffy for Katakuri. Like, no disrespect to Katakuri. No disrespect whatsoever. But you wouldn't trade Luffy right now for Katakuri. You wouldn't trade Luffy for King. You wouldn't trade Luffy for even Ben Beckman, you know? Anuj Agarwal, thanks for the 2. Absalom over Foxy's crew, the game is gone. I don't think people are, like, thinking about Absalom's allegations with... Or not allegations. They're not allegations. We all know what he did. I don't think people are thinking about that scene. I actually fucking wasn't thinking about that till people were mentioning it. Don Quixote Pirates, Beast Pirates versus Fisherman Pirates. I think we got simple. Thriller Bark Pirates versus Fisherman Pirates. I thought we've already done this. I guess we did it versus new Fisherman Pirates. Akash Panda, thanks for the 2. Your dog's name, Harley, turned out to be Huge W. Yeah, because of the language, the Harley language. Thriller Bark Pirates versus Arlong Pirates. Let's see. PacG says Braun's defense is really bad now. He's too old. No, LeBron's been playing really, really good defense lately. Like, very, very good. Ever since the Luka trade, he's been playing really good. Which is, by the way, literally, I came on stream after the Luka trade and literally told you guys, LeBron can still play really, really good defense. He can still play really good defense. He's just not able to do that when he also has to be the primary offensive shot creator, facilitator, do all that offensive load. Not at this age. But ever since Luka's joined, LeBron has been, like, that is one of the most noted things about this Lakers defense. LeBron was fucking picking up Jokic. Like, not single-handedly guarding him and everything like that, but LeBron's defense has been fucking phenomenal these last several games. Like, fucking phenomenal. Like, LeBron, I was saying that for some time, which is that LeBron can still, like, it's an energy thing. At this point, LeBron is still hyper-athletic. Hyper-athletic, extremely strong. It's just an energy and effort thing because he can't turn that on most games. And he especially wasn't turning it on back when the Lakers season just seemed like it was going nowhere. Because he's not going to waste his body doing that. But now when you've got like Luka taking the offensive load, this was exactly what I explained would likely happen once Luka joined the team. Which is that LeBron James can still be a great defender. Like, they actually do have several great defenders with, or several good wing type defenders on their team right now. Luka's not one of them. Austin Reeves can be okay when he's like he can be decent when he's putting in effort. But right now, Luka's the only one who's like not actually a good defender on that team. LeBron is back to being a good defender now that he can take rest off of offense. If you think that LeBron's not a good defender right now, you're not actually watching. I'm not even watching the games, but I'm watching enough of the highlights and the analysis that I know that LeBron's turned a corner on defense. A corner that he could always have turned even at this age. It's just an effort thing. If it's just you literally can't put in a certain level of effort on defense if you are carrying that much usage on offense. It's just not doable, especially not at that age. If your offensive load goes down, as long as you have the tools, you will put in a lot more effort on defense and be a good defender. That's where LeBron's at right now. Arlong Pirates, take it. Oof says LeBron is great at defense when he needs to be. Exactly, and the big thing is that now he has the energy for it because now he can be secondary shot creator and even third. Like, he can even just let LeBron and AR, like, run the show for extended periods of time. At that point, all the energy that LeBron would otherwise be exerting on offense, he can put into defense. And he still has the strength and athleticism. Like, he's still faster than most people. He's still stronger than pretty much, like, 99% of NBA players. He's still more athletic. He's still got insane IQ. And he's got so much experience being a lockdown defender. Like, LeBron is a phenomenal defender still. only as so long as he doesn't have to exhaust himself on offense, right? He's 40 years old, so he can't do that, but now he doesn't have to. Manfish, thanks for the 5. Is it true that you refer to your girlfriend only as Mrs. Morj? No, I've literally never said that. Anyway, continuing on. Continuing on. I watch Thinking Basketball sometimes. The person I actually watch most frequently, like after any game or just to keep understanding things, is Hoops Tonight with Jason Timpf. Because Thinking Basketball will put out one good video essay somewhat frequently. But it's not like all the time. Jason Timpf on Hoops Tonight is like literally the only. I've learned so much more about basketball from watching him. Even when I'm not watching basketball, I've learned so much more from watching him because he's the only basketball YouTuber that I've seen that consistently puts out videos talking about like regularly, like multiple times over the course of a week, right? Thinking Basketball puts out video essays. This is the only guy I know who just does straight commentary, who actually goes in depth breaking down exact X's and O's of what's happening, and it's very, very, very accurate. Like he's not BSing or being vague or anything like that. Everything he's saying is stuff that like you can actually very, very clearly observe if you're actually looking at the game, basically. So like it's helped me understand so much, and a lot of what he doesn't get predictions necessarily right each time for who's going to win or what, but in terms of how he predicts matchups will go and the key parts of it, those are like shockingly accurate. One of the biggest reasons I started really trusting him, especially, was like last year before the finals. A lot of people were talking about like how Luka and Kyrie, they'll just be too much of a problem for the Celtics, etc. Like a lot of people, like even really good analysts like Legler, were talking about like how Luka's an unsolvable problem, etc. for the Celtics. But like Jason Timpf on Hoops Tonight was just, before the matchup, he was just going in depth, breaking down like not just the matchups position by position, but straight up like all the types of action that the Mavs like to run, and precisely why those things don't really have a logical way of working against the Celtics, precisely because like this is what the Celtics do in this situation, this is what the Celtics do in that situation, this is what the Celtics do in XYZ situation. Like it wasn't just like the player matchup, like, oh, Luka's gonna go off for this, or he's gonna be able to score on Tatum or Brown, etc. a lot. Or it was just like straight up like, if Luka's doing this and then Gafford's doing this and this and this and this, right? Like that's one way that they can generate points, but that won't work against the Celtics because of this. If they try to generate points like this, it won't work against the Celtics because then they can rotate like this. Like it was just a very, very comprehensive breakdown of all the things that then actually ended up happening over the course of the finals, which kind of blew my mind because he was just like, he didn't say the Mavs couldn't win. He was just like, yeah, Luka's just going to have to play like an 11 out of 10 for them to win. And then that didn't happen. Luka played like an 8 or 9 out of 10, I guess, over the course of that finals. Defense, maybe you dock him another point or two. But yeah, like it was pretty illuminating to just see somebody break down basketball that comprehensively in terms of like not just broad strokes things, but just in terms of like straight up what is actually like the nuances of how points are generated game to game in terms of like exactly what player dynamics lead to what and how does that match up against the other team's dynamics. So I really, really recommend that guy. He has his own biases, obviously, in terms of like what teams he likes and doesn't like, so he'll ignore certain things and some stuff like that. But like, I've just learned so much watching him. I've learned so much watching his channel. I would very, very much recommend that channel. Anyway, continuing on. Arlong Pirates. Oh wait, we're done with this. Let's see. Thriller Bark Pirates versus God's Army. Let's see. All right, got Thriller Bark Pirates. Foxy Pirates versus God's Army. Let's see. Brim says, I love when you say, but that aside after the ad in your videos. Yeah. So we got to set that aside. Okay. This is a tight one. I'll give you guys a little bit. Is God's Army Holy Knights? No. God's Army is Enel, his priests, and then I guess you would also count Yama and even Hotori Kotori. All right. We got God's Army. Foxy Pirates versus Buggy Pirates. This is an interesting one. This is an interesting one. No, it's not the Holy Knights. We don't know enough about the Holy Knights just yet. No, it's not Holy Knights and the Gorosei. Yeah, I would agree Foxy Pirates were more entertaining than the Buggy Pirates at that point in the story. Buggy Pirates versus the Black Cat Pirates. This is an interesting little matchup. I personally feel, because, like, I think at the time I found the Black Cat Pirates, they were just a much bigger threat than the Buggy Pirates. But the Buggy Pirates have zany... No, the Black Cat... I don't know. The Buggy Pirates had the staying power, so it just depends. But, like, we're not counting the fleet, you know? Oh, people take the Buggy Pirates over? I guess that's fair. Okay, we're just going through the East Blue group at this point. Black Cat Pirates, Krieg Pirates. Hero and Django carried that group? Yeah, that's true, because Sham and Bucci kind of sucked. They were, like, oddly enough, a decent challenge for Zoro after they stole the swords. Okay. So it looks like the Krieg parts just edge it. I imagine because of Jin. Pearl sucks, obviously. I like Kuro better than I like Krieg. And I like Django better than I like... Django, even Sham and Bucci, though, better than I like Pearl. But Jin is just great. Okay. We're getting to the bottom of the barrel here, y'all. The lowest of the low.
When Riot revealed the gameplay trailer for its upcoming fighting game 2XKO, a user on Reddit described...
I forget with these headphones that I can, like, play videos on accident. Alright, Black Cat Pirates take it over New Fisherman Pirates. Alright. People fucking hate the New Fisherman Pirates. We're almost there. I wonder what the last one is. Cecil Bow says, Morj, do you play fighting games? I want to pick up Street Fighter soon. Because in general, the main fighting game that I played is Melee. I loved Melee. I haven't played it in a few years, but I just absolutely loved Melee. Right? Beyond that, I played other Smash games. In terms of, like, classic traditional fighting games, Mortal Kombat was the one that I played the most of. And then I played some Injustice, and then a little bit of Killer Instinct, but I was never big in those games, right? I want to play Street Fighter just because it will scratch that itch I have to play, like, a little competitive multiplayer game. And in Street Fighter, I just know that it's very footsies oriented, and I prefer learning games that are very footsies oriented instead of having to learn like very, very elaborate punishes. Drum Army takes it over New Fisherman Pirates. Damn. I don't... Drum Army even over New Fisherman Pirates. I'm sorry, even Drum Army over them. That's kind of crazy. All right, y'all. So here's our final ranking. From worst to best, we have New Fisherman Pirates, Drum Army, Black Cat Pirates, Krieg Pirates. So we're getting through East Blue here. Buggy Pirates. Then Foxy Pirates. I think this tracks so far. God's Army, Thriller Bark Pirates, Fisherman Pirates. I actually really agree with a lot of this. I really, really agree with it. Like, I would... This would track pretty similarly to how I would view it. Beast Pirates, Donquixote Family, Baroque Works Beast Pirates, then Donquixote Family, then Baroque Works, then Big Mom Pirates, then CP9. Here is... I like this ranking a lot. If I were to... I almost separate it into tiers where, like, these are, like, great... Not great groups, all of them. I mean, they are. Yeah, like, these are the most memorable, iconic enemy groups. Like, most robust, gave us the most intense fights, generally speaking. I guess with Don Quixote, Big Mom Pirates, I don't know. But, like, these, I think, fall into their own tier, generally. Then I'd say you got this, like, middle sort of tier with, like... I'd say these, I could see an argument for any of them against one another. And then here are kind of like joke type enemy group. Like, they were never a real threat. You know what I mean? Never a real threat. Kind of just depends on which vibe you enjoyed. We don't usually spend that much time with them. And then this is just a botched group. Like, just fucking too many with too little time to spend to remember any of them. I think that those are kind of the tiers. Like, the silly guys... the actual enemy groups that are like, you know, solid, but not like super, super significant at the end of the day. Or maybe some of them are just not as memorable. And then like, these ones are like the big enemy groups that we've really had to tackle. If I were to order it my way, I think among this tier, I think I'd still have the Foxy Pirates number 1. I think I'd bump the Black Cat Pirates over the Krieg Pirates. I know Jin's a big... I'm rating them as villain groups, okay? So Jin is kind of complicated a little bit there. Jin's just a little bit complicated. I found the Black Cat Pirates to be more fun as villains than the Krieg Pirates. Because the Krieg Pirates, like, the majority of them are just, like, all unconscious the entire time. Drum Army, I think I'd put at the bottom. But it would be roughly close to this. I think I would have Buggy Pirates. I'd have Foxy Pirates, then Buggy Pirates. Then either Black Cat or Krieg Pirates. I think I might do Black Cat and then Krieg. Just barely. And then Drum Army here. And then New Fisherman Pirates. I don't know. I think you could argue that they go higher. Like, I think you could argue that the New Fisherman Pirates... I could argue the New Fisherman Pirates as high as, like 9. Like, above the Foxy Pirates almost, just because, I don't know, all the Strahds got fights and stuff, but I feel like they're fine at 14. I also feel like they're fine at 14. They're just, for a 50-chapter long arc, like, you gotta remember, Fishman Island was fucking long as fuck. For a 50-chapter long arc, the arc that we've been waiting and waiting for the Strahds to finally get to show off their abilities, for them to be so fucking unmemorable, for them to all just blend together, for them to be that throwaway, I think it's just, yeah, I don't know. I think here's fine. Then among this group, right, between God's Army, Fisherman Pirates, and Thriller Bark Pirates, I think you could really shuffle them any which way. I think Arlong is my favorite villain out of these. I think the Fisherman Pirates gave us the best fights in general. Because Luffy got a good fight. Zoro got an okay, like, he got a fine fight. Sanji got a good fight. Usopp got a great fight. Here, a lot of them were kind of throwaway fights, but I think they're more fun as characters. Hachi was good over there. I put Gecko Moria as a worse villain than Arlong or Enel. Perona's cool. If you count the zombies, I'd put it this way. If you count the zombies, Thriller Bark Pirates I put above the Fisherman Pirates. If you don't count the zombies, I think they're fine where they are. I think God's Army, yeah. Maybe it just goes here. I think this, I might go with this. If you count the zombies, I'd put them at number 6. Otherwise, I might roll with this sort of ranking. Might just roll with, yeah, I think this sort of ranking seems right. I feel like I almost want to put the Thriller Bark Pirates above Fisherman Pirates regardless. It's either of them at 6 or 7. They're at 6 or 7, and then, like, if you count the zombies, again, I've been reiterating that, but it's just hard. Do you count the zombies or not? Yeah. And then for the top tier, I kind of just want to take the Big Mom Pirates out of it. They're hard for me to evaluate. They're genuinely very hard for me to evaluate. Like, you got good character writing for Katakuri. Like, great character writing for Katakuri. Good character writing for Pudding. They're such an interesting group. I'm not going to rank the Big Mom Pirates. I think I've told you why at the beginning of the stream I'm not ranking the Big Mom Pirates the same as the rest. Because to me, they fall in a different category almost. Like, the rest of these are all groups that the Straw Hats go up against in an arc. And the idea is that the Straw Hats go up against these groups and they defeat them over the course of the arc. The Big Mom Pirates are an exception to that. They don't function the same way, you know? We got to meet them. We got to fight a couple of them. Cracker, Katakuri we got to defeat. Beyond that, they were like characters in their own story, right? Which makes them a really cool group. I don't know how to evaluate them as a villain group, you know? They had a very interesting, unique dynamic. I don't know. I'm just going to put them out of here. I'm not ranking the Big Mom Pirates. So out of CP9, Baroque Works, and the Donquixote Family, I would actually probably put the Beast Pirates above the Donquixote Family. It's a hard call. The only reason I would do that is because I valued I found Doflamingo's seats are just too disappointing. Don Quixote is, like, the seats matter. I think the top end, I value the top end a bit more. So even though I don't think the Toby Roper are bad, really. I think they're solid. Like, I think Who's Who is cool. I think if we count X Drake, that's an interesting-ish character. Black Maria is kind of cool. Ulti is fun. Ulti, I like Ulti. Page 1 is kind of lame. I think the Toby Roper are fine. It's just that none of them are like Senor Pink level writing, obviously, but I think I just personally weight a little bit more. When I think of Donquixote Family, the first thing I think of is like, oh, they were a little bit disappointing. And then I have to remember that they had so many cool characters in the second batch, right? But the reason I think they were a little disappointing right off the bat is I'm just like, the first memory in my mind is just like, there's no strong or notable threats, basically. Then I remember, oh, they had Virgo. But Pika, Diamante, Treble, just a joke for most of the arc. The Beast Pirates, the first thing I remember is that they gave the Straw Hats a real challenge. Like, Luffy versus Kaido, right? Insane matchup. I mean, Zoro was even in there for a little bit, right? Zoro versus King, Sanji versus Queen, Robin versus Black Maria. I remember the matchups quite a bit. It's just that it falls off after that, like Frankie versus Saki, Jinbei versus Who's Who, Nami and Usopp versus Ulti in page 1. Did that fight even happen? Like, it's just gut instinct. I put the Beast Pirates above the Donquixote Family just because I think the threat that the Beast Pirates represent in my mind just sticks out a little bit. If you really think about the full totality of the Beast Pirates, because then you're adding in like, yeah, they just felt like such a threat, right? Because even though the gifters are a joke, it's just the army that the Beast Pirates represented was like just such an unprecedented challenge for the Straw Hats in general. So that still leaves a memory that the Straw Hats had to really assemble a gigantic alliance to take down the Beast Pirates at the end of the day. So I think that still carries some weight. So I do weight I think I weight the Beast Pirates above the Donquixote Family as villains, while the Donquixote Family has some gems in there though. CP9, I think number 1 makes sense. I think Baroque Works, you could go either. I put Baroque Works above the Beast Pirates. I enjoyed the process of like getting to know Baroque Works slowly over several arcs, and then finally leading down to that showdown, which had good fights for all the strats. Great fights for all the strats, honestly. Yeah. I think I would go CP9 number 1, Baroque Works, and then Beast Pirates. But like all three are, I don't put the Beast Pirates. Yeah, I'd say Baroque Works definitely above the Beast Pirates. Beast Pirates and Donquixote Family is very tight, but I'd put Donquixote Family at 4. Akash Panda says, please mention Sugar. I don't have much to say about Sugar. I think Sugar is just a plot device. To me. Don Quixote is wacky and fun. Yeah, but then Beast Pirates had that sense of threat and challenge, at least on paper, even though the raid turned out to be a joke. With the Beast Pirates basically fumbling and being on the back foot the entire time. But still, just the fact that it took a whole alliance that they had to assemble to take them down. Like, the way I'd put it with the Don Quixote family is that, like, yeah, they needed the Corda Coliseum characters to help them take down the Don Quixote family, but that's just because half the Strahd crew is gone. If the other half was there, then the Corda Coliseum fighters would not be needed. Like, genuinely speaking, it was implied that Robin could defeat Gladius with pretty low difficulty, and it seemed like Robin could defeat Diamante with pretty low difficulty. Like, they were fine. Frankie was barely trying against Senor Pink. He wasn't using any of his weaponry. Like, I just got the sense that, like, if Sanji was still back there, he would fuck up so many of the Don Quixote. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that was the thing. The Don Quixote family just didn't feel like a threat at the end of the day. It was just like Doflamingo and Virgo, and then a big drop-off. And then some really good writing with Senor Pink, but the family itself was really fun and cool to follow. Anyway. All right, everybody. All right. This was a fun stream. Thank you all for tuning in, and yeah, we're going to call it here. Yeah. Basically, we did this stream because we want to see where the Gods Knights end up in the ranks of these characters. It's possible the Gods Knights rank at number 1 at the end of all this. We don't know yet, but yeah, wait and see. All right, everybody. With that, I will talk to you all later.